Beneath centuries of history, and hidden in plain sight, lies a secret that has tantalized treasure hunters for generations. Could the Knights Templar, the legendary warrior monks of the Crusades, have sailed across the Atlantic long before Columbus? Maps lost to time, cryptic symbols etched in stone, and whispers of treasure buried deep in the New World. Tonight, we trace the shadows of the Templars, uncovering clues that suggest their influence may reach farther than history admits. The Templars, an order shrouded in secrecy, known for their wealth, their vows, and their mysterious disappearance in the early 14th century. While Europe remembers them as a fallen order, some believe their story continued across the ocean, in the quiet forests of Nova Scotia. The ruins of stone towers, cryptic carvings, and unusual alignments hint at something more than mere settlement. In Rhode Island, the enigmatic Newport Tower stands, its purpose debated, its origins mysterious. And in the heart of the Midwest, a carved stone, the Kensington Runestone, tells a tale that challenges conventional history. Could these scattered markers be whispers of a secret Templar mission, a treasure hidden in a new land, waiting to be found, long before the familiar sails of Columbus ever caught the winds of the Atlantic? There existed whispers of journeys across those vast, uncharted waters, quiet, deliberate voyages, undertaken by those whose knowledge of navigation, secrecy, and hidden power surpassed anything Europe had yet imagined. Among them, the Knights Templar stand alone in legend and speculation, famed for their courage on the battlefields of the Crusades, their unparalleled wealth, and their mysterious rituals. They were an order cloaked in secrecy, one whose disappearance in the early 14th century still ignites both fascination and controversy. In the year 1307, the order was arrested, stripped of its wealth, and accused of heresy under the orders of King Philip IV of France. The Templars' strongholds were seized, their members imprisoned or executed, and the once powerful order dissolved in an official sense. Yet legends persist, murmurings that suggest the story did not end on those European soil. Perhaps, for some of the surviving Templars, the dissolution was not a conclusion, but an opportunity, a chance to vanish into the unknown, carrying with them treasure, sacred knowledge, and secrets that could reshape the understanding of history itself. The question that has haunted historians, treasure hunters, and enthusiasts of the mysterious for centuries is deceptively simple. Could the Templars have reached the shores of the Americas long before Columbus ever set sail? Could they have established secret footholds, buried treasures, and left cryptic markers, designed to be discovered only by those who understood their code? These ideas, once dismissed as fanciful or conspiratorial, have grown increasingly compelling in recent years as anomalies, artifacts, and unusual structures dotting the landscape suggest the possibility of pre-Columbian European contact. Consider the Newport Tower, located in Rhode Island, its circular stone walls rising inexplicably amidst the quiet New England countryside. Its construction, weathered, yet carefully aligned, has defied easy explanation. Scholars have long debated its origins. Was it a remnant of a medieval windmill, as some assert, or could it have been part of a more ancient network of structures, a navigational marker, or even a ceremonial site linked to European travelers whose presence in the Americas predates the traditional history books? Its thick walls, built with precise masonry, suggest knowledge and techniques not commonly attributed to early colonial settlers, and yet its story is largely brushed aside in conventional accounts, its mystery lingering quietly, waiting for those willing to question the accepted narrative. Further inland, in the forests of Minnesota, stands the Kensington Runestone. Unearthed in the late 19th century, the stone bears runic inscriptions that speak of Norse explorers in North America during the 14th century. While mainstream historians have largely dismissed it as a hoax, the details embedded in its carvings have fascinated generations of researchers. Some argue that the stone's language, symbols, and craftsmanship hint at influences beyond mere Norse contact, raising the possibility of connections to Templar traditions. Could the Templars have traveled alongside or followed in the wake of other Northern European explorers? Could they have hidden messages, symbols, or even treasure that has yet to be fully interpreted? The mystery continues in Nova Scotia, where Oak Island has captivated imaginations for centuries. The Money Pit, an infamous site of alleged hidden treasure, is rumored to guard riches too meticulously buried to be accidental. Excavations have revealed layers of engineered complexity, wooden platforms, flooded tunnels, and strange artifacts, leading some to speculate that the Templars, masters of secrecy and precision, may have left their mark here. Stories of coded messages, unusual construction methods, and inexplicable finds suggest that Oak Island may be more than a pirate's hiding place. It may represent a deliberate effort to conceal something of immense value. Whether these treasures are material or symbolic remains unknown, but the patterns suggest planning, foresight, and a knowledge of the New World that few Europeans of the period would have possessed. The concept of the Templars in America is not entirely without historical precedent. The order, after all, was known to be highly organized, sophisticated in finance and navigation, and deeply connected to networks across Europe and the Mediterranean. Some Templar documents hint at voyages and explorations beyond the familiar maps of the time, while many records were destroyed or remain shrouded in secrecy. Accounts from contemporary chroniclers suggest that certain Templars were well-versed in astronomy, navigation, and even cartography. Could such knowledge have enabled them to cross the Atlantic in secret, avoiding the scrutiny of European monarchs and the Church, to plant seeds of influence and hidden treasure in the New World? There are, of course, skeptics, historians, and archaeologists often dismiss these theories as fanciful, pointing to a lack of incontrovertible evidence and the possibility of misinterpretation. Yet history itself is littered with discoveries that were once dismissed artifacts, structures, and inscriptions that challenged prevailing assumptions, only to later rewrite accepted narratives. The Templar theory, in this sense, exists in that tantalizing space between certainty and imagination, demanding both skepticism and wonder. What makes the possibility compelling is not just the presence of anomalies, but their alignment with known Templar practices. Across Europe, the Templars were known to hide treasures in cryptic locations, often marked with symbols that could be read only by the initiated. Their constructions frequently incorporated sacred geometry, star alignments, and architectural codes. In the Americas, similar patterns can be traced: geometric alignments, stone constructions, and symbols whose meanings remain elusive. While coincidence cannot be entirely ruled out, the recurrence of these motifs raises questions. Were these markers deliberate? Were they meant to guide, protect, or communicate? And if so, who were they intended for? The Templars' supposed presence in America also intersects with broader theories of transatlantic exploration. Long before the age of Columbus, there were voyages across the Atlantic by Norse seafarers, by Basque fishermen, and perhaps by secretive European orders like the Templars. Maps such as the Zeno map, which depicts lands far to the west of Europe in the late 14th century, hint at knowledge of regions that mainstream history insists were unknown at the time. Could the Templars have been part of this hidden knowledge network, navigating oceans with skill and secrecy, leaving behind both material and symbolic traces? And then there is the question of treasure. Legends tell of immense wealth amassed by the Templars during their century of influence, a treasure hoarded, moved, and concealed during their persecution. While some of it was undoubtedly seized by kings and religious authorities, much of it vanished without trace. Could some of this treasure have crossed the Atlantic, hidden in remote forests, buried beneath stone structures, or safeguarded in subterranean vaults? Could Oak Island, the Newport Tower, or other sites serve as silent guardians of wealth whose value extends beyond gold and jewels? Encompassing knowledge, religious artifacts, or encoded maps, the psychological and symbolic significance of such theories is equally profound. The Templars, after all, were not merely warriors. They were guardians of a worldview, protectors of sacred secrets, and custodians of knowledge that challenged conventional authority. Their alleged presence in America suggests not just an interest in treasure, but in legacy, a desire to leave behind markers, to encode meaning, and to plant threads of influence that could survive centuries of change. In this sense, the question is not merely did the Templars hide treasure, but also what did they intend to preserve. As we begin this exploration, it is important to acknowledge the tension between history and legend. Some artifacts may prove to be clever fakes, misinterpretations, or coincidences. Some maps may be exaggerations, some stones misread. Yet in the interplay of mystery, speculation, and evidence, a narrative begins to emerge, one of shadowy figures navigating the Atlantic in secret, of treasures hidden with precision and foresight, and of a story that refuses to be contained by conventional timelines. It is here, in the liminal space between certainty and possibility, that our journey begins. From the quiet ruins of Rhode Island to the frozen plains of Minnesota, from the misty shores of Nova Scotia to the whispered tales of explorers long forgotten, we will trace the footsteps of an order whose influence may have quietly shaped the New World. Along the way, we will encounter clues etched in stone, buried in earth, and whispered through legend. We will explore the maps, symbols, and structures that hint at a hidden presence, and we will ask, again and again, whether the Templars' legacy in America is fact, fiction, or something in between. By the end of this chapter, one truth becomes clear. The idea of Templars in America is not merely a curiosity. It is a puzzle that spans continents and centuries, a shadowy trail that challenges assumptions, and a question that continues to captivate the imagination. Whether they carried gold, knowledge, or both, the possibility that they set foot in the New World invites us to rethink history itself, and to consider that the story of America and the story of the Templars may be more intertwined than anyone has dared to imagine. The shadows across the Atlantic are long, the traces faint, and the story far from complete. But in following these whispers, we begin to glimpse a past that refuses to remain silent, a past in which the Templars may have left not just riches, but a mystery that still calls to the curious, the brave, and the seekers of history's hidden corners. To understand the possibility of the Templars in America, one must first journey back to Europe, to the twilight of their power, and to the events that forced one of the most secretive and influential organizations in history into sudden obscurity. The Knights Templar, established in the early 12th century during the Crusades, were more than soldiers. They were bankers, scholars, and guardians of knowledge, operating across kingdoms, continents, and cultures. Their influence extended beyond the battlefield. They built fortresses, managed wealth beyond imagining, and most intriguingly, cultivated knowledge, esoteric, sacred, and carefully guarded. By the beginning of the 14th century, their power had grown to a scale that stirred envy and fear among monarchs and the church alike. King Philip IV of France, deeply indebted to the order and eager to consolidate his power, sought a pretext to dismantle them. On Friday, October 13th, 1307, a date that would echo through history, the Templars were arrested across France. Accusations of heresy, blasphemy, and secret rituals were leveled against them. Charges that many historians now believe were fabricated to seize their wealth and dissolve their influence. Yet, even in the face of such ruthless persecution, the Templars did not simply vanish. Accounts from surviving records suggest that certain members anticipated the storm. They were masters of secrecy, after all, trained in concealment, coded communication, and the safeguarding of treasures both material and spiritual. Some historians speculate that they prepared for this collapse, moving gold, relics, and manuscripts to hidden locations across Europe and beyond. Ships may have been readied in ports along the Atlantic, ready to carry knowledge and wealth away from prying eyes. The abruptness of the Templars' fall only deepened the mystery. While some were imprisoned, tried, or executed, others disappeared. Families connected to the order, noble allies, and sympathetic clergy may have assisted in the escape of key figures, and with them, perhaps, went not only treasures, but secrets too dangerous for contemporary Europe knowledge of the heavens, sacred geometry, and navigational techniques that could guide men across vast oceans. It is within this context of fear, foresight, and opportunity that theories of a transatlantic journey begin to take shape. Some suggest that Templar ships, laden with gold, manuscripts, and sacred relics, may have set sail under the guise of merchant vessels or pilgrimages, slipping quietly into the Atlantic at a time when European attention was focused elsewhere. Navigation in the early 14th century was certainly possible. Though perilous, yet the Templars were not ordinary sailors. They were trained in advanced geometry, astronomy, and cartography, disciplines intimately linked to their sacred mission. Could they have used this knowledge to chart courses across the ocean, leaving only faint traces of their passage for future generations to discover? Europe itself provides tantalizing clues. Across France, England, Spain, and Portugal, remnants of Templar architecture, hidden crypts, and secret tunnels suggest a sophisticated network designed to protect not only wealth, but information. Temples and fortresses often incorporated symbolic design, encoding messages into the very stones of their construction. Star alignments, sacred numerology, and geometric patterns were more than decoration. They were a language, and if these methods were employed in Europe, could they not have been adapted for use in foreign lands, far from the reach of inquisitors and kings? The idea of the Templars as voyagers is not merely fanciful. Across Europe, port cities were bustling with trade, exploration, and the exchange of ideas. Ships traveled to the Canary Islands, the Azores, and possibly beyond, carrying goods, knowledge, and sometimes secret passengers. Certain Templar documents fragmented an obscure hint at voyages to lands that were poorly mapped, or even unnamed. While the specifics are lost to history, the fragments suggest a curiosity and ambition that aligns with later theories of pre-Columbian exploration. But what drove such potential voyages? Wealth alone is one explanation. Yet the Templars were already extraordinarily wealthy. More compelling is the idea of preservation, the safeguarding of knowledge, relics, and treasures from forces that might destroy or misuse them. In a Europe suddenly hostile to their order, the Templars may have looked westward, across the Atlantic, seeking lands untouched by political intrigue and religious persecution. There they could safeguard secrets, establish enclaves, and perhaps even influence future generations through coded markers and hidden treasures. The physical evidence in Europe hints at this possibility. Certain Templar symbols, crosses, geometric motifs, and cryptic inscriptions appear in locations that seem oddly placed, almost as if designed to convey meaning to those who could interpret them. Some researchers have noted that these symbols often align with stars or solstices, suggesting that the Templars' knowledge of astronomy was not merely ceremonial but functional. Could the same principles have guided voyages across the Atlantic? Could hidden markers, placed along shorelines or in inland clearings, serve as beacons, guiding the Templars in their secret migrations? The surviving Templar networks may have extended far beyond Europe. Members often had connections with merchants, explorers, and sympathetic nobles across the Mediterranean and North Africa. These networks could have facilitated knowledge of distant lands, trading routes, and navigational techniques. Furthermore, maritime maps, some of which have surfaced in fragmentary forms, depict coastlines and islands not widely recognized by contemporary scholars, suggesting that certain individuals possessed knowledge of territories that were otherwise unknown. In mainstream Europe, it is here that the Atlantic itself becomes a silent witness. The ocean, vast and uncharted, could both conceal and reveal. A ship that left a European port with care, navigating by stars, currents, and hidden maps, could traverse great distances without detection. And along the way, the Templars could leave subtle markers, anchoring points, or encoded messages, ensuring that future seekers, those with the knowledge to read them, might one day find what had been carefully concealed. Consider the Newport Tower standing quietly in Rhode Island. Its circular design, thick masonry, and precise construction have led some to speculate that it is far older than the earliest colonial settlements, and that its style reflects medieval European architecture, possibly linked to Templar builders. Whether a windmill, a lookout, or a ceremonial site, its presence raises questions about who had the knowledge and resources to build such a structure, and why it appears at this particular location. Could it be that the Templars brought not only treasure but architectural expertise across the ocean, leaving behind structures that encode their presence? Further north, Oak Island presents another enigma. For centuries, treasure hunters have been drawn to its money pit, uncovering tunnels, wooden platforms, and strange artifacts. The level of engineering sophistication, combined with the secrecy of the original construction, has led some to consider Templar involvement. Their European strongholds were often similarly complex, designed to protect and conceal. If the Templars had indeed reached Oak Island, the patterns and ingenuity observed there would be consistent with their known practices. And then there is the question of knowledge preservation. The Templars were custodians of sacred texts, maps, and relics. Some of these may have held spiritual, symbolic, or practical significance beyond mere monetary value. Could manuscripts containing navigation techniques, astronomical calculations, or encoded instructions have been carried westward, forming the foundation for secret networks that span continents? Could treasures themselves be less about gold and more about safeguarding wisdom that could survive the destruction of their order? Skeptics, of course, point to the lack of conclusive evidence. No definitive Templar ship logs, no preserved cargo, manifests, no signed declarations of voyages to the New World exist. Yet history is full of mysteries that were once dismissed, artifacts misinterpreted, structures misdated, and documents overlooked only to be understood later with closer examination. In this sense, the absence of proof is not proof of absence. The Templars were masters of concealment. If they did voyage across the Atlantic, they would have had every reason to leave minimal trace, knowing that secrecy was essential to the preservation of both treasure and knowledge. The fall of the Templars, paradoxically, may have facilitated their secret journeys. As their order crumbled under political and religious pressure, members who escaped were freed from the constraints of Europe, able to operate in distant lands without oversight. With skill, foresight, and the knowledge of generations, they could have planned voyages, hidden treasure, and encoded messages in a new world, creating a network that would quietly persist for centuries. In the end, the question is not merely historical, it is symbolic. The Templars' possible voyages across the Atlantic represent the tension between secrecy and discovery, between knowledge lost and knowledge preserved, and between legend and history. Every stone, every map, and every cryptic inscription becomes a potential key to understanding not only their presence in the Americas, but also their enduring legacy as guardians of mysteries that reach far beyond Europe. As we close this chapter, one truth becomes clear. The fall of the Templars was not necessarily an end. It may have been a transition, a shift from visible power to hidden influence, from European fortresses to secret footholds across oceans. The seeds planted in that era may still bear fruit, waiting for those patient enough, perceptive enough, and daring enough to follow the shadows left behind. And so, with Europe's story of collapse, conspiracy, and concealment behind us, we turn next to the evidence scattered, subtle, and sometimes frustratingly elusive of the Templars' presence in the Americas. From enigmatic stones to mysterious towers, from buried treasure to coded inscriptions, the trail begins to emerge, one clue at a time, inviting us to reconsider history and to listen carefully to the whispers of those who walked these shores long before Columbus set sail. The vast expanse of the Americas holds countless mysteries, many hidden beneath forests, stone, and soil for centuries. Among them lie traces that some believe may point to a presence far older than conventional. History admits a presence connected, not to ordinary settlers, explorers, or colonists, but to one of Europe's most secretive orders, the Knights Templar. As our story moves from the crumbling fortresses of Europe to the quiet, enigmatic markers in North America, we find ourselves tracing a network of sites and artifacts that hint at a journey across the Atlantic. These are not merely random anomalies. They are clues, physical, symbolic, and sometimes cryptic, that suggest careful planning, knowledge of advanced construction, and perhaps the movement of people and treasure far ahead of their time. One of the most frequently discussed sites is the Newport Tower, located in Rhode Island. Rising from the green New England landscape, its circular stone walls and precise masonry have long puzzled historians and architects. Official accounts describe it as a colonial-era windmill, yet its design, construction, and orientation remain unusual for the 17th century. Some researchers argue that it reflects European medieval architectural techniques, possibly linked to Templar builders. Its circular plan, thick walls, and carefully constructed arches suggest knowledge of geometry and engineering beyond what would have been typical in the region at that time. Equally intriguing is its alignment. The tower sits in a location that, when examined through the lens of sacred geometry and astronomical observation, may correspond with solstices or star positions. If the Templars had indeed voyaged across the Atlantic, could such structures have served as markers, guiding points for travelers, ceremonial sites, or even repositories for knowledge or treasure? The tower's very existence raises questions about who possessed the skill, knowledge, and resources to build it, and why it stands where it does, seemingly out of place amidst early colonial settlements. Moving inland, we encounter the Kensington Runestone, discovered in Minnesota in the late 19th century, carved with runes that resemble a blend of medieval Scandinavian and cryptic inscriptions. It tells a story of exploration in a land far from known settlements. Skeptics have long dismissed the stone as a hoax, citing linguistic anomalies and the timing of its discovery. Yet the details etched upon its symbols, numbers, and references to journeys have captivated researchers seeking to understand its origins. Some theorists suggest that the Runestone could represent a record not just of Norse explorers, but of secretive European travelers with specialized knowledge, perhaps even Templars. Its existence in the heart of North America implies a level of mobility and reach far beyond what is usually accepted for the period. Whether or not the Templars themselves carved it, the stone becomes part of a larger pattern evidence, however circumstantial, of advanced knowledge, exploration, and intentional marking of territory. Further east, Oak Island in Nova Scotia presents one of the most tantalizing enigmas in the Americas. The Money Pit, a series of subterranean tunnels and chambers, has captured imaginations for centuries. Excavations reveal wooden platforms, flooded shafts, and artifacts that suggest careful planning and engineering. Theories abound regarding its origin: pirates, secret societies, or even lost civilizations, but the Templars remain a persistent candidate. Their European fortresses often contain similarly complex constructions designed to protect valuables. Could Oak Island's Money Pit be a continuation of this tradition? A hidden vault across the Atlantic meant to safeguard treasure, relics, or even sacred knowledge. The engineering of Oak Island is remarkable. The pit features layers of stone, and would that suggest forethought and meticulous planning, possibly intended to confound treasure seekers for generations. This aligns with known Templar practices: secrecy, protection, and long-term concealment. If Templar hands were involved, the site may have been more than a treasure repository. It could represent an archive of symbols, encoded instructions, or markers leading to other locations. Even smaller, less famous sites contribute to the pattern. Scattered stone structures, unusual carvings, and local legends hint at a network of markers stretching across New England, the Midwest, and Canada. In Rhode Island, faint alignments in the landscape echo geometric principles known to Templar architects. In the forests of Nova Scotia, oral histories speak of strange constructions and buried objects. Though individually these may seem inconclusive, taken together, they suggest a deliberate pattern, a hidden web that spans the continent, waiting to be interpreted. Maps provide another layer of evidence. The Zeno map, a fragmentary 14th century chart, depicts lands to the west of Europe with surprising accuracy. Some scholars argue that it reflects knowledge of territories far earlier than Columbus, possibly drawn from oral reports, earlier voyages, or secretive navigational traditions. If the Templars carried such maps, or had access to similar knowledge, they may have used them to guide voyages, identify suitable locations for markers, and strategically hide treasures. The combination of maps, markers, and constructions forms a tantalizing trail, one that could have been deliberately left to survive centuries. Symbolism, too, is key. Across Europe, the Templars encoded meaning into architecture, geometry, and ritual. Crosses, geometric shapes, and star alignments often held layers of significance. When similar motifs appear in the Americas, whether etched into stone or reflected in construction, they invite speculation. Were these symbols intended to communicate with other members of the order, to mark hidden caches, or to leave a message for future generations, hinting at the presence of a secretive network that spanned oceans? The concept of treasure itself extends beyond material wealth. Gold, silver, and jewels may have been part of what the Templars carried, but equally important could have been manuscripts, sacred texts, and artifacts. Europe in the 14th century was a turbulent place. Knowledge was fragile, and sacred objects were vulnerable to seizure or destruction. Sending these treasures westward into a land largely unknown to the political powers of the time may have been a strategy not of conquest, but of preservation. Yet, despite these clues, the trail is frustratingly incomplete. Much has been lost to time, storms, soil movement, human activity, and deliberate obfuscation have hidden, scattered, or destroyed evidence. What remains is often fragmentary: a stone here, a map fragment there, a tower that does not fit the timeline. To interpret these clues requires patience, imagination, and a willingness to consider possibilities that mainstream history often rejects. Even local legends carry weight. Stories of strange lights, unexplained stone formations, and sudden wealth appear in New England, the Midwest, and Canada. While oral histories are notoriously unreliable, patterns emerge when similar tales appear across disparate regions. Could these be echoes of Templar activity, stories passed down through generations, preserving knowledge of hidden sites and treasures? The recurring themes of secrecy, construction, and encoded information suggest more than coincidence. The Newport Tower, the Kensington Runestone, and Oak Island together form a triad of evidence material, linguistic and structural, that supports the theory of Pre-Columbian Templar presence. Each site, by itself, raises questions. Together, they suggest a deliberate pattern, a strategy of hiding, marking, and encoding that aligns with known Templar practices in Europe. While skeptics argue that connections are speculative, the accumulation of anomalies, symbols, and artifacts demands attention. Astronomical alignment appears in multiple locations. Stone structures and towers, when analyzed through the lens of celestial observation, reveal orientations consistent with solstices, equinoxes, or prominent stars. Such knowledge, mastered by European orders like the Templars, could have been employed to guide navigation, mark significant dates, or encode sacred meaning into the landscape. In the New World, these alignments provide subtle hints, invisible to the casual observer, yet deliberate and meaningful to those trained to see them. Even the geography itself may have influenced placement. Towers, stones, and pits appear in locations accessible to water routes, near fertile land, or aligned with rivers and streams that could facilitate transportation. This suggests careful selection, not random settlement. Such considerations align with the idea of hidden networks, strategically positioned to endure time and concealment. Artifacts discovered at these sites, though fragmentary, also raise questions. Tools, stones, and wooden remnants often suggest advanced knowledge of construction and planning. In some cases, inscriptions resemble European symbols, while in others, the artifacts reflect a blend of local and imported techniques. Could these represent collaboration between Templars and indigenous populations, or simply the adaptation of European methods in a new environment? The answers remain elusive, but the evidence forms a mosaic, small, fragmented, yet suggestive of a broader pattern. Even the stories of treasure hunters contribute to the narrative. Generations of seekers on Oak Island, explorers in Rhode Island, and enthusiasts across the Midwest recount experiences that defy easy explanation. Sudden discoveries, objects of unusual craftsmanship, and patterns in the landscape that seem intentionally designed to guide. Whether interpreted as legend, coincidence, or the echoes of a secretive presence, these accounts provide a human dimension to the material evidence, suggesting that the traces of the Templars or those inspired by them may still exert influence. Centuries later, in the end, the clues across the New World towers, stones, pits, and inscriptions invite us to reconsider the story of discovery in America. They suggest that long before Columbus, before the waves of colonial settlers, there may have been visitors whose purpose was not conquest, but concealment, not colonization, but preservation. Whether these visitors were indeed Templars, or another group employing similar methods, the pattern remains compelling. Deliberate placement, encoded meaning, and careful concealment of knowledge and treasure across an uncharted continent. As we conclude this chapter, the pieces begin to form a picture, a network of structures, inscriptions, and landscapes designed with foresight, informed by advanced knowledge, and shrouded in secrecy. It is a puzzle that spans centuries, continents, and oceans, inviting those willing to look closely to trace the hidden threads of history. The Americas, in this sense, are not merely a blank canvas awaiting European arrival. They may be a stage upon which the Templars or their spiritual successors left hints, markers, and treasures patiently waiting for discovery. Each site, each stone, each enigmatic inscription whispers a question to those who dare to listen. What secrets lie buried, not just in earth, but in the story itself? And so, with the new world's evidence laid before us, both tangible and subtle, we prepare to delve deeper, exploring the connections between these sites, the symbolism they carry, and the treasure they may guard. From Rhode Island to Nova Scotia, from stone to manuscript, the trail continues, inviting us to follow the shadows of an order that may have walked these lands long before history gave them a name. As the shadows of the Templars stretch across the New World, one of the most compelling mysteries is not only where they may have been, but what they may have carried with them. The notion of treasure evokes images of gold, silver, and jewels, but for the Templars, treasure often held a more profound significance. Sacred knowledge, coded maps, religious relics, and symbols imbued with meaning could be as valuable as any chest of coins. In the Americas, traces of these hidden treasures may lie buried, encoded in stone, and carefully concealed for centuries. The Newport Tower, Oak Island, and the Kensington Runestone, which we explored in the previous chapter, offer glimpses into this intricate web. Each site, in isolation, invites speculation. Taken together, they suggest a pattern of deliberate concealment, architectural sophistication, and symbolic encoding, a hallmark of Templar methodology. But beyond these structures, other subtle markers and artifacts hint at a deeper purpose: the safeguarding of knowledge, the preservation of secrets, and the creation of a network that spans continents. Consider the use of sacred geometry. Across Europe, the Templars incorporated geometric patterns into their architecture using circles, triangles, and the golden ratio to encode spiritual and practical knowledge. In the Americas, similar geometric principles appear in stone arrangements, alignments, and structures. The circular plan of the Newport Tower, the layering of Oak Island's money pit, and even the placement of certain stone markers in New England forests suggest a continuation of these traditions. Geometry, for the Templars, was not mere decoration, it was a language, a tool for encoding messages, guiding navigation, and aligning constructions with celestial patterns. Astronomy played an equally critical role. Solstices, equinoxes, and stellar alignments were integral to Templar ritual and planning. Observations of the heavens were used for both spiritual purposes and practical navigation. In the New World, several sites appear to correspond with celestial events or prominent stars. Oak Island's positioning in relation to the horizon, certain alignments at the Newport Tower, and even patterns in smaller stone arrangements hint at knowledge of astronomy. Carried across the Atlantic, could these sites have served as markers, guiding hidden travelers, or as mnemonic devices, preserving knowledge of the heavens in a foreign land? Manuscripts and maps, though largely lost, may have been part of the treasure carried westward. Templar archives were known to contain detailed navigational instructions, coded texts, and symbolic diagrams. The Zeno map, for example, depicts territories to the west of Europe with surprising accuracy for the late 14th century. While scholars debate its authenticity and source, the possibility that it reflects knowledge held by secretive orders like the Templars cannot be dismissed outright. Maps could have guided voyages, indicated locations for hidden structures, and informed the placement of treasures, ensuring that knowledge and wealth could survive centuries of upheaval. The very notion of hidden treasure in the Americas must be understood in the context of Templar methodology. In Europe, their fortresses, chapels, and vaults were carefully designed to conceal wealth and sacred artifacts. Tunnels, secret chambers, coded inscriptions, and geometric arrangements were commonplace. If Templars traveled westward, it stands to reason they would employ the same techniques, adapted to a new landscape. Oak Island's money pit, with its layered construction and engineered obfuscation, may represent such an adaptation. The pit's wooden platforms, flooded tunnels, and complex design mirror European Templar constructions, suggesting deliberate concealment of something of great value. The symbolic dimension of these treasures is equally intriguing. The Templars were guardians of relics, objects imbued with religious, spiritual, and historical significance. These could include manuscripts, ceremonial implements, or sacred artifacts, each encoded with meaning, and sometimes hidden in locations chosen for their alignment with celestial or geometric principles. If any of these were transported to the New World, the purpose may have been preservation rather than mere acquisition. Gold and jewels could serve as currency or allure, but knowledge and sacred objects were enduring, capable of surviving centuries if hidden wisely. Connections between sites further support this theory. Consider the alignment of certain markers along rivers, hills, or coastlines. Patterns emerge when multiple sites are mapped, a network of points that could serve navigational, ceremonial, or symbolic purposes. If these markers were intended to communicate across distances, to guide initiates, or to protect secrets, their placement would be deliberate, subtle, and resistant to casual discovery. The repetition of geometric motifs, celestial alignment, and strategic placement across multiple sites suggests an underlying intelligence and plan. Consistent with Templar practices, artifacts recovered at these sites, though often fragmentary, provide tantalizing hints. Pieces of stonework, metal objects, and inscriptions suggest advanced craftsmanship and knowledge of European techniques, even when items appear mundane. Their context, placement, orientation, and relationship to surrounding features often carries significance. For example, inscriptions on stones may encode dates, measurements, or instructions, while small artifacts may act as keys to understanding broader patterns. Such evidence demands careful study, as it could reveal the intentions, methods, and beliefs of those who placed them. Oral histories and local legends add another layer of intrigue. Stories passed down through generations, describing strange lights, hidden chambers, or sudden discoveries, often converge in ways that suggest deliberate concealment rather than coincidence. While folklore must be treated cautiously, recurring motifs and similarities across regions hint at a memory of extraordinary events, possibly linked to a hidden order operating in secrecy. The convergence of physical evidence, geometric patterns, and oral tradition strengthens the argument for a deliberate presence. The question of motivation is also central. Why would the Templars or those inspired by their methods go to such lengths in a distant land? Preservation of sacred knowledge, safeguarding of relics, and concealment of wealth are likely factors. Equally important may have been the creation of a symbolic legacy, a series of markers and structures designed to communicate with future generations, to transmit knowledge, and to leave a trail for those able to decode it. The interplay of secrecy, symbolism, and geography suggests a sophisticated understanding of both human perception and environmental design. Even maps and written records hint at hidden knowledge. Certain European maps, while fragmentary, depict Western lands in ways inconsistent with accepted exploration timelines. Manuscripts, whether lost or surviving only in fragments, may have contained instructions, navigational data, or encoded messages intended for those initiated into the order. If these documents were transported to the Americas, they could have served as guides, blueprints, or mnemonic devices, ensuring that hidden treasures and knowledge were accessible only to those capable of interpreting them. The broader context of European exploration also informs these theories. While Columbus receives credit for the discovery of the New World, there were undoubtedly voyages across the Atlantic prior to 1492. Norse seafarers reached Newfoundland centuries earlier, and traders, fishermen, and explorers ventured far beyond the familiar coasts. Within this milieu, it is plausible that secretive orders like the Templars could have undertaken voyages of their own, guided by knowledge, protected by secrecy, and motivated by preservation. The convergence of anomalous sites, geometric patterns, inscriptions, and legends strengthens the possibility of a deliberate, clandestine presence. The complexity of Oak Island, for instance, suggests not merely hidden treasure, but a system designed to endure centuries. Layers of timber, carefully placed stone, and engineered water channels indicate forethought and technical skill. The site may have functioned as both repository and puzzle, encoding information in its construction that could guide future seekers. The possibility that this methodology echoes European Templar practices invites comparison and raises further questions about knowledge transfer, adaptation, and concealment. Even small, less conspicuous artifacts may carry significance. Tools, carvings, and minor structures scattered across New England and the Midwest may function as links in a broader network, forming a web of markers, messages, and repositories. Each piece, when analyzed in relation to others, contributes to a mosaic of hidden knowledge. This cumulative evidence, while circumstantial, suggests an intentional design consistent with the secretive practices of the Templars. Symbols, too, demand attention. Crosses, geometric shapes, and encoded letters often recur in locations tied to legends of Templar activity. Their meanings may be layered, incorporating spiritual, navigational, and mnemonic functions. Understanding these symbols requires patience, knowledge of Templar methods, and an appreciation for the interplay of secrecy and communication. In the New World, such symbols may point to buried treasure, hidden manuscripts, or encoded instructions, all waiting for discovery by those with the skill and insight to decode them. In addition, the role of terrain cannot be overlooked. Sites are often strategically placed near rivers, ridges, or other natural landmarks, facilitating travel, concealment, and observation. This careful selection aligns with Templar methodology. In Europe, where fortresses and chapels were situated with both defensive and symbolic considerations in mind. In the Americas, such placement may have served multiple purposes, guiding travelers, protecting treasures, and ensuring longevity and secrecy. By weaving together architecture, inscriptions, geography, symbolism, and legend, a picture emerges of deliberate, thoughtful, and highly skilled activity in the New World. The evidence is fragmentary, scattered, and often subtle, yet the patterns suggest intention rather than coincidence. Whether the Templars themselves left these markers, or others inspired by their methods, the possibility remains compelling. A hidden network, spanning oceans and centuries, designed to preserve knowledge, treasure, and influence. As this chapter concludes, the notion of Templar presence in the Americas becomes more than mere speculation. It transforms into a tantalizing possibility, grounded in patterns, symbols, and traces that demand attention. The treasure, in this sense, may be both material and symbolic gold, relics, knowledge, and encoded messages that continue to challenge understanding. The Order's legacy, preserved through meticulous planning and careful concealment, invites the curious, the patient, and the daring to explore, interpret, and perhaps uncover what has remained hidden for centuries. With the evidence of hidden knowledge, symbolism, and treasure laid before us, the next chapter will delve even deeper into the methods of concealment, the encoded maps, secret inscriptions, and intricate patterns that suggest the Templars left a deliberate trail, a trail meant to be followed, decoded, and understood by those willing to engage with their mysteries. From manuscripts to monuments, from geometric alignments to celestial markers, the story continues, drawing us closer to the heart of a legend that refuses to fade. If the Templars did indeed venture across the Atlantic, they would have needed more than courage and secrecy. They would have required knowledge, precise navigation, understanding of currents, celestial guidance, and above all, methods to record, preserve, and transmit information. It is here, in the realm of maps, codes, and secret networks, that the story becomes most tantalizing, a story of hidden knowledge traveling across oceans, encoded in ways designed to survive centuries. Maps are the most tangible evidence of such knowledge long before Columbus. Charts depicting Western lands exist in fragmentary and enigmatic forms. Among them, the Zeno map stands out, a 14th century chart depicting territories far to the west of Europe, with surprisingly accurate coastlines and islands that mainstream history struggles to explain, though its origins remain debated. The map hints at knowledge held by explorers, navigators, or secretive orders capable of transatlantic voyages. If the Templars had access to such maps, they would have been invaluable tools, guiding secret journeys, marking suitable locations for settlements or hidden treasure, and preserving knowledge for future generations. But maps were only part of the system. The Templars were masters of encoding information. Across Europe, their fortresses, chapels, and manuscripts reveal intricate use of symbols, numerology, and geometry. Star alignments, sacred ratios, and architectural codes were deliberately employed to convey meaning often known only to initiates. If these methods were transported to the New World, they could explain the enigmatic structures, stone markers, and alignments we have discussed in previous chapters. Each tower, each pit, each carved stone could serve as both a waypoint and a message, communicating across time and space to those capable of interpreting it. Consider the Kensington Runestone, discovered in Minnesota. While skeptics question its authenticity, the stone contains not just runic writing, but numbers and patterns that suggest intentional encoding. If interpreted through a Templar lens, it may represent more than a record of exploration. It could serve as a guide, a cryptic record of movement, or a marker for hidden treasures. The interplay between language, symbols, and geography creates a layered system, one designed to protect knowledge while leaving traces for those trained to understand it. The Newport Tower, too, provides clues. Its precise circular construction, thick walls, and unusual alignment suggest deliberate geometric planning. Some researchers argue that the tower's orientation corresponds with solstices or celestial markers, hinting at advanced astronomical knowledge. Combined with nearby stone formations and alignments, the tower could be seen as part of a broader network, linking sites across New England, the Midwest, and even Nova Scotia. If the Templars traveled westward, these markers may have guided them, encoded information, or symbolically represented hidden caches of treasure or knowledge. Oak Island, with its money pit, adds another dimension to this system. Its multi-layered construction, engineered water channels, and hidden chambers suggest careful planning over decades, perhaps centuries. If Templars were involved, the design may have encoded instructions, directions to further treasures, or symbolic markers meant to endure time. The pit's complexity mirrors European Templar constructions, indicating an understanding of engineering, concealment, and cryptic communication. In this sense, Oak Island is not merely a treasure sighted as a puzzle, a coded monument that carries meaning for those able to decipher it. Encoded symbols appear elsewhere as well. Stones, carvings, and architectural elements often repeat. Geometric patterns or celestial alignments, crosses, triangles, circles, and numbers may serve multiple functions: spiritual, navigational, or mnemonic. In Europe, these codes guided initiates, preserved knowledge, and protected secrets. Transplanted to the New World, they could function similarly, guiding voyages, marking locations, or preserving sacred knowledge across generations. The recurrence of these patterns, particularly in geographically strategic locations, suggests deliberate planning rather than coincidence. Manuscripts, while largely lost, may have played a central role in this network. Templar archives in Europe contain detailed instructions, coded texts, and maps. Some of these documents likely vanished during persecution, yet fragments and references suggest that certain members may have carried texts to the Americas. These manuscripts could have guided construction, navigation, or treasure placement. Their encoding would ensure that only those initiated into Templar knowledge, or those capable of decoding geometric, numerical, or symbolic clues could access the information. The use of geometry and astronomy in encoding cannot be overstated. Templar sites in Europe often align with solstices, equinoxes, or prominent stars. By mapping these celestial markers onto the New World landscape, hidden messages could survive centuries, guiding those attuned to their meaning. Stone circles, towers, and pits may all function as elements of a vast, transatlantic network linking physical locations with symbolic meaning. In this way, the Templars' presence could persist invisibly, encoded in stone, geography, and sky. Even oral histories and folklore hint at such a system. Tales of lights, strange constructions, sudden discoveries, and hidden treasures recur across the Americas. While folklore must be approached cautiously, recurring motifs, repeated symbols, and consistent references suggest that memory of extraordinary events survived. These stories may reflect encounters with markers, structures, or knowledge left by secretive travelers. When analyzed alongside physical evidence and maps, folklore contributes to a complex web of clues, connecting sites, symbols, and landscapes. The motivation for such a network is clear. The Templars were not merely treasure seekers, they were guardians. Their wealth, sacred relics, and manuscripts were protected with secrecy and encoded knowledge. If carried across the Atlantic, these treasures would need to be preserved, guided, and marked in ways that ensured survival. Maps, symbols, structures, and folklore all become tools in this endeavor, forming a system that safeguards material and spiritual wealth while leaving a trail for the initiated. Strategic placement of sites further supports this interpretation. Structures often appear near water routes, fertile land, or natural landmarks, suggesting careful planning. Geometry and alignment integrate seamlessly with the landscape, implying an understanding of both environment and intention. The network is not random. It reflects purpose, foresight, and mastery of multiple disciplines: navigation, architecture, astronomy, and symbolism. The role of secrecy remains central. The Templars thrived on hidden knowledge. Codes, ciphers, and geometric messages protected information, guiding those who knew how to interpret it while misleading the uninitiated. In the New World, similar principles could explain the subtlety of markers, the enigmatic construction of towers and pits, and the layered complexity of artifacts. Secrecy ensured preservation, transforming ordinary stones, tunnels, or inscriptions into enduring vessels of knowledge. The convergence of evidence maps, symbols, artifacts, and folklore creates a compelling narrative. While no single element provides absolute proof of Templar presence, the cumulative pattern is striking. Structures, alignments, coded inscriptions, and legends form a network consistent with known Templar practices. This network spans continents, linking Europe with the Americas, and material evidence with symbolic meaning. It suggests deliberate planning, secrecy, and foresight, hallmarks of Templar methodology. The treasure itself may be both material and symbolic. Gold, jewels, and relics may exist, but encoded knowledge, sacred texts, and ceremonial artifacts may be even more significant. The Templars' approach to concealment and preservation prioritized longevity, subtlety, and intelligibility only to those equipped to interpret their signs. In this sense, the Americas may host a series of hidden caches, physical and intellectual, waiting for discovery by the observant, patient, and insightful. Even the act of mapping these sites reveals patterns. When plotted across the landscape, towers, stone markers, and pits often form geometric alignments. Triangles, circles, and star-like configurations emerge, echoing European Templar methods. Such alignments suggest not only guidance and preservation, but also a symbolic message, a map of intention encoded into the very land each marker reinforces the next, forming a chain of knowledge and influence that stretches across the continent. Local legends, maps, and physical evidence converge to reinforce this network. Stories of lights, sudden discoveries, and hidden chambers mirror the physical patterns found in structures and inscriptions. Maps, whether European or created in situ, may reflect encoded routes, treasure locations, or ceremonial alignments. Together, they suggest that the Templars, or those inspired by their methods, transplanted a sophisticated system across the Atlantic, blending practical guidance with symbolic meaning. By understanding this network, one begins to glimpse the scale of the Templars' ambition. They were not merely travelers or settlers, they were custodians, architects, and strategists. Their influence, carried quietly across oceans, may have shaped landscapes, embedded knowledge in structures, and preserved treasures for generations. Every stone, tower, and pit becomes part of a larger story, one that connects Europe to the Americas, history to legend, and secrecy to discovery. As this chapter concludes, the importance of maps, codes, and networks becomes clear. The Templars' possible presence in the Americas is not defined solely by physical artifacts. It is expressed through a sophisticated system of communication, alignment, and concealment. Their methods ensured that knowledge and treasure could survive centuries, concealed yet discoverable by those attuned to their meaning. In the chapters to come, we will explore the emotional and intellectual implications of these discoveries, the resistance of modern academia, the fascination and obsession of treasure hunters, and the tantalizing possibility that the Templars' hidden network still waits to be decoded. From coded symbols to hidden maps, from legends to structures, the trail continues, inviting us deeper into a story that blends history, speculation, and the enduring allure of secrets long buried. If the Templars did indeed establish a presence in the New World, it is not only their treasures and structures that intrigue, but the intent and care with which they concealed their work. Throughout history, the Templars were not reckless custodians. Their wealth, relics, and knowledge were meticulously protected, often at great personal risk. In Europe, their methods of concealment were sophisticated: secret vaults, hidden chambers, coded manuscripts, and cryptic symbols designed to survive centuries while remaining hidden from the uninitiated. In the Americas, similar methods appear to have been employed. Oak Island, the Newport Tower, and the Kensington Runestone are all testaments to careful planning, subtle design, and the integration of secrecy with environment. The money pits, complex engineering, for instance, is not merely a puzzle, it is a deliberate system designed to thwart discovery, while preserving whatever lies within. Layers of stone, wood, and water channels conceal content, protect it from natural forces, and complicate attempts at retrieval. This mirrors the Templars' European practices, where multiple layers of defense and subterfuge safeguarded treasures and sacred knowledge, but secrecy carried risks, not only for the treasures themselves, but for those who sought to guard them. In Europe, the fall of the Templars demonstrated the dangers of visibility, accusation, persecution, and execution. Those who survived had to operate quietly, often moving their knowledge and treasures into exile or hiding. This principle likely continued in the New World. Any attempt to reveal the presence of treasures, manuscripts, or sacred objects could have endangered not only the guardians, but the very purpose of their concealment. Thus, the Templars may have relied on indirect communication, coded markers, symbolic alignments, and subtle inscriptions designed to guide future seekers without exposing the original custodians. The patterns of concealment are complex and multi-layered. Structures like the Newport Tower may serve multiple functions: architectural, symbolic, and practical. Its circular walls and precise construction suggest geometric knowledge, while its positioning hints at celestial alignment. Beyond function, it becomes a marker, part of a larger system designed to communicate with those capable of interpretation. Similarly, Oak Island may contain not only physical treasure, but encoded instructions, hidden vaults, or markers indicating the presence of additional caches elsewhere. The sophistication of such concealment suggests foresight, discipline, and an understanding of the human tendency to overlook subtle clues. The Templars' use of symbols and geometry in Europe provides context for their possible methods in the Americas. Sacred ratios, star alignments, and architectural motifs were employed to encode information and convey meaning to initiates. Crosses, triangles, circles, and numerical patterns recur in European constructions, often serving both spiritual and practical purposes. Transplanted to the New World, these principles could guide travelers, mark locations of hidden treasures, or preserve sacred knowledge. Their deliberate subtlety ensured that only those trained in interpretation could access the information, reducing the risk of theft, misunderstanding, or destruction. Manuscripts, though largely lost, were another key element in Templar secrecy. Detailed navigational instructions, encoded texts, and ceremonial records were all stored in European archives. During the Order's persecution, some may have been transported westward, safeguarding knowledge from hostile forces. These documents could guide future generations in navigation, construction, or discovery, encoded to survive time, decay, and misinterpretation. The act of encoding, whether through ciphers, geometric symbols, or mnemonic devices, ensured that knowledge remained hidden, yet accessible to those prepared to read it. The risks of revelation extended beyond immediate discovery. Knowledge, or treasure exposed prematurely, could attract not only thieves, but powerful institutions, political authorities, or religious authorities eager to seize what was hidden. The Templars' meticulous concealment was therefore both protective and strategic. By encoding knowledge in landscapes, structures, and symbols, they created a system that could endure centuries, waiting for those patient and perceptive enough to follow the trail. Even small artifacts contribute to this hidden network. Stones, tools, and carvings, when viewed in isolation, may seem mundane, yet their placement, orientation, and relationship to surrounding features often suggest deliberate intent. Patterns emerge across multiple sites, hinting at communication, preservation, or guidance, in combination with celestial alignments, geometric ratios, and symbolic markers. These seemingly minor elements reinforce the idea of a hidden, enduring system. The psychological aspect of concealment is equally intriguing. The Templars were trained to operate within secrecy, to encode meaning, and to anticipate the actions of those who might seek their treasures. This mindset ensured both survival and preservation, shaping their constructions inscriptions, and networks in the Americas. This same psychological framework may explain the deliberate subtlety of markers, the complexity of structures, and the layered approach to hiding both material and intellectual wealth. Oral histories, legends, and folklore often reflect these hidden networks, tales of lights, sudden discoveries, and mysterious constructions persist across the Americas, from New England forests to Nova Scotia shores. While folklore is notoriously unreliable, patterns emerge when stories recur across regions and generations. These repeated motifs may preserve memory of extraordinary events, encoded knowledge, or markers placed by secretive travelers. The intersection of physical evidence, symbols, and oral tradition strengthens the argument for intentional concealment and communication. The interaction between landscape and design further reinforces the Templars' potential methods. Sites are often positioned near rivers, hills, or coastlines, facilitating both concealment and travel. Alignments with natural features, combined with geometric and astronomical planning, suggest a deliberate integration of environment and intention. The result is a network that is both hidden and resilient, capable of enduring centuries of natural change, human development, and political upheaval. Even treasure hunters of the modern era recognize the sophistication of such concealment. Oak Island, in particular, has confounded seekers for centuries. Attempts to excavate the money pit reveal not only physical obstacles, but ingenious methods of protection, water channels, layered construction, and carefully engineered obfuscation. These techniques echo European Templar methods of securing wealth and knowledge, reinforcing the plausibility of a transatlantic continuity. The symbolic dimension of treasures is as important as the material. Sacred relics, encoded manuscripts, and ceremonial objects often carry meaning far beyond monetary value. By hiding such items in carefully chosen locations, the Templars or their successors ensured their preservation while creating a network of signs, markers, and monuments. Each object, stone, or alignment may function as both a repository of wealth and a guide, offering insight into the intentions, beliefs, and methods of those who place them. The cumulative effect of these methods is striking. Physical structures, encoded symbols, manuscripts, geometric alignments, and oral traditions converge to suggest a deliberate and enduring network. Sites across North America appear connected, forming a web of hidden knowledge, concealed treasures, and symbolic markers. The integration of geometry, astronomy, landscape, and folklore reflects a sophisticated understanding of concealment, communication, and preservation. The Templars' risk of exposure in Europe offers a critical parallel. In a hostile environment, secrecy was essential. Arrests, trials, and executions demonstrated the high stakes of discovery. Transporting treasures, manuscripts, and sacred objects to a distant continent offered both opportunity and safety, but also required continued vigilance, encoding, and concealment. Each marker, each alignment, each structure was part of a system designed to survive, transmitting meaning while minimizing the risk of unwanted intrusion. The implications for modern researchers and explorers are profound. Evidence, while subtle, exists across multiple domains: architectural, geological, astronomical, symbolic, and folkloric. Interpreting these clues requires interdisciplinary study, patience, and careful observation. Misinterpretation could obscure meaning, while insight could reveal connections spanning centuries and continents. The Templars' methods demand intellectual engagement as well as physical exploration, blending history, geometry, symbolism, and navigation into a coherent, if cryptic, system. Ultimately, the Templars' legacy in the Americas may not be limited to material wealth. Their methods of concealment, encoding, and preservation demonstrate a broader commitment to safeguarding knowledge, tradition, and spiritual heritage. Each structure, pit, or inscription may carry layered meaning, offering insight into the order's worldview, priorities, and strategies. By studying these traces, modern explorers engage not only with potential treasures, but with a profound historical intelligence and intellectual and spiritual puzzle designed to endure through centuries. As this chapter closes, one truth emerges: the Templars, or those inspired by them, understood the stakes of revelation. Secrecy, encoding, and strategic concealment were essential to protecting both knowledge and treasure. The sites we have examined, the Newport Tower, Oak Island, the Kensington Runestone, and numerous subtle markers across the continent reflect this mindset. They demonstrate foresight, skill, and patience, creating a network designed to outlast centuries, survive persecution, and preserve mysteries for those capable of understanding them. The next chapter will explore even more subtle forms of evidence: the encoded symbols in stone and manuscript, patterns in landscape and astronomy, and the hidden messages left for those willing to follow the Templars' trail. From geometry to folklore, from stars to stone, the story deepens, drawing us closer to the heart of a network that may have quietly shaped the Americas long before history recorded its arrival. As we move deeper into the mysteries of the New World, the trail of the Templars becomes increasingly subtle, almost invisible to the untrained eye. It is here, in the patterns etched into stone, the alignments of structures, and the geometry of the land itself, that the most profound evidence may lie. While gold and jewels capture imagination, it is encoded knowledge, hidden in plain sight, that reflects the Templars' true sophistication, their ability to preserve wisdom, spiritual insight, and sacred purpose across centuries. Across Europe, the Templars employed sacred geometry with meticulous care. Circles, triangles, pentagrams, and the golden ratio were not mere decoration, they were a language, a method of encoding knowledge in a form that could endure time, communicate meaning, and guide initiates. Churches, chapels, and fortresses often exhibit precise ratios and alignments, reflecting both spiritual symbolism and practical function. In the Americas, researchers have identified echoes of these patterns, from the circular Newport Tower to stone alignments in New England forests, suggesting a deliberate transplantation of knowledge across the Atlantic. Consider the Newport Tower once more. Its circular form, thick walls, and carefully placed arches evoke geometric precision uncommon for colonial-era constructions. While some claim it was simply a windmill, closer analysis reveals astronomical alignments consistent with solstices and star positions. The tower's circular layout may reflect not only structural stability, but symbolic meaning, a microcosm of celestial order, encoded in stone. If Templars or their followers built it, the structure could serve multiple purposes: ceremonial, navigational, and mnemonic, simultaneously guiding travelers and preserving esoteric knowledge. Oak Island, in Nova Scotia, offers another layer of encoded complexity. The Money Pit's construction incorporates multiple layers of wood, stone, and water channels, elements that confound conventional excavation. Some researchers suggest the placement of materials, tunnels, and chambers may encode a system of measurements, directions, or symbols. Each layer could represent not only physical concealment, but intellectual concealment, a message left for those able to decode the pattern. The sophistication mirrors Templar European vaults, where encoded construction protected both treasure and sacred knowledge. Encoded messages appear not only in architecture, but also in inscriptions and carvings. The Kensington Runestone, with its runic alphabet, numeric sequences, and cryptic phrasing, may represent more than an historical account. Certain researchers suggest that its arrangement reflects a deliberate system of communication, one that could encode dates, locations, or instructions. Similarly, stone markers in New England and the Midwest often carry geometric shapes or symbols whose meaning may only be revealed through study of alignment, measurement, and context. Astronomy plays a crucial role in this network. The Templars were skilled observers of the heavens, using star positions and solstices for navigation, ritual timing, and encoding information. In the Americas, alignments at sites like Newport Tower or other stone markers often correspond to celestial events. Certain stones may mark the rising of a star, the solstice, or a lunar cycle, embedding astronomical knowledge into the landscape itself. Such integration of earth and sky creates a system that is both practical and symbolic, preserving wisdom in a durable, hidden format. Geometric patterns are equally significant. Triangles, circles, and intersecting lines recur across multiple sites, suggesting intentional design. Sacred geometry is not arbitrary. It encodes relationships, ratios, and harmonies that convey both spiritual and practical knowledge. When mapped across sites from New England to Nova Scotia, patterns emerge, hinting at a larger network. Each site becomes a node in a web, connected by geometry, alignment, and symbolic meaning, forming a continent-spanning network of encoded knowledge. Manuscripts, though often lost or fragmented, likely complemented this system. European Templar records contained instructions, maps, and coded texts, often using geometric or symbolic notation to protect information. If brought to the New World, such manuscripts could provide guidance for construction, placement of markers, or identification of hidden treasures. Encoding ensured that only those initiated into the order's knowledge or those capable of decoding geometric and symbolic clues could access the information. Even small artifacts contribute to this system. Tools, carved stones, or unusual construction elements may appear mundane at first glance, yet their positioning, orientation, or relationship to surrounding structures can carry meaning. When analyzed alongside celestial alignments and geometric principles, these minor items often reveal deliberate intent, reinforcing the broader network. They are the punctuation, connectors, and keys that allow the encoded messages to function across time and space. The interplay of folklore and symbolism further supports the theory of encoded knowledge. Stories of lights, strange constructions, sudden discoveries, and hidden treasure recur across regions, often preserving memory of extraordinary events or knowledge. These narratives, combined with physical evidence, create a multi-layered system in which stone, landscape, and story all encode meaning. Folklore becomes a secondary layer of preservation, carrying the Templars' message in human memory even when physical structures are obscured or damaged. Consider also the role of rivers, ridges, and coastlines. Many markers and constructions are positioned in relation to natural features, integrating landscape into the encoding system. Placement near water routes or elevated terrain could serve practical purposes, facilitating travel, concealment, and orientation. When combined with geometric alignment and celestial observation, the landscape itself becomes a canvas for communication, a coded map that endures centuries. Invisible to those untrained in interpretation, the Templars' use of numerology is another element worth noting. Numbers, often embedded in inscriptions or architectural design, may encode dates, distances, or symbolic meaning. Across multiple New World sites, certain numeric patterns recur, suggesting deliberate encoding rather than coincidence. When combined with geometric and astronomical markers, these numerical elements form a sophisticated system capable of conveying complex information over generations. Maps, both European and local, provide additional evidence of this network. Fragmentary charts depicting western lands, islands, and coastlines hint at knowledge predating Columbus. When interpreted alongside encoded structures, inscriptions, and landscape markers, these maps suggest that a network of guidance and concealment existed, linking Europe and the Americas through geography, geometry, and symbolism. Such maps may have served both practical and mnemonic purposes, guiding travelers while encoding meaning only intelligible to the initiated. The persistence of such markers over centuries speaks to the durability of the system. Stones remain, alignments persist, and folklore endures, even as settlers, explorers, and modern researchers encounter these clues. The encoded network continues to function, challenging assumptions about history, discovery, and human ingenuity. Each layer, physical, symbolic, and narrative, reinforces the others, creating a resilient and sophisticated system of preservation. Oak Island, the Newport Tower, and the Kensington Runestone serve as primary nodes in this network, but countless smaller sites contribute as well. Stone formations in forests, unusual architectural elements, and subtle landscape alignments all hint at deliberate placement. When examined collectively, these markers reveal a strategy that blends concealment, communication, and preservation. They are consistent with Templar methods, yet adapted to the new world, demonstrating both continuity and innovation. The Templars' intent appears multifaceted. Material wealth, sacred objects, and manuscripts were preserved, but so too was knowledge encoded in stone, landscape, and story. Celestial alignments, geometric patterns, and inscriptions all functioned as guides, mnemonic devices, or protective measures. Together, they form a network capable of enduring centuries, transmitting meaning to those able to perceive it while remaining hidden from casual observation. Even modern attempts to uncover these secrets reflect the enduring sophistication of the system. Excavations, surveys, and research frequently encounter obstacles, natural degradation, engineered obfuscation, or layers of intentional concealment. Yet the persistence of patterns, geometric, symbolic, and astronomical, suggests deliberate design. The system anticipates discovery while remaining secure, a testament to the foresight, discipline, and intelligence of those who created it. The convergence of evidence is striking. Physical structures, encoded inscriptions, celestial alignments, geometric patterns, manuscripts, folklore, and landscape markers all point toward a deliberate network. Sites across the Americas appear interconnected, forming a web of hidden knowledge, concealed treasures, and encoded meaning. This network spans continents, integrates multiple forms of encoding, and reflects a sophisticated understanding of both material and spiritual preservation. Sacred geometry, in particular, emerges as a unifying principle. Triangles, circles, and ratios recur across multiple sites, suggesting both practical and symbolic intent. Alignment with stars, solstices, and natural landmarks further integrates the system into the environment. Numerical codes, inscriptions, and encoded manuscripts complement these physical markers, creating a multi-layered network capable of enduring centuries. Folklore, oral tradition, and repeated narratives preserve memory of this system, reinforcing its persistence. Stories of lights, hidden treasures, and mysterious constructions converge across regions, echoing the physical and symbolic markers. When combined with maps, inscriptions, and geometric alignments, these narratives reveal a network that is both tangible and intangible, a system of knowledge and preservation that transcends centuries. As this chapter closes, the importance of encoded messages and sacred geometry becomes clear. The Templars' potential presence in the New World is not limited to treasure alone. It is expressed through a sophisticated system of communication, alignment and concealment, physical structures, inscriptions, celestial observations, and geometric patterns all function as elements of a network, preserving knowledge, guiding travelers, and protecting treasures across centuries. The next chapter will explore specific symbolic connections from Rosslyn Chapel to Oak Island, from European fortresses to New World constructions, tying together evidence of Templar influence, encoded knowledge, and transatlantic continuity. From stars to stones, from manuscripts to folklore, the trail continues, leading ever deeper into a story of hidden wisdom and enduring secrets. As we trace the Templar presence across the Americas, one striking theme emerges, a series of echoes linking Europe to distant, seemingly isolated sites. These echoes are more than coincidence. Architectural forms, symbolic motifs, and encoded messages in stone reveal continuity, suggesting that those who crossed the Atlantic brought with them not only treasure but knowledge, ritual practice, and an understanding of symbolism that endured through centuries. In essence, the New World becomes a mirror of European Templar practices, adapted to unfamiliar landscapes, yet retaining the same meticulous methods of concealment and communication. Take Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland as a point of departure. Built by the Sinclair family in the 15th century, the chapel is renowned for its intricate carvings, including cryptic geometric patterns, elaborate botanical motifs, and unusual symbols that seem out of place in a European context. Carvings of maize and aloe vera, plants native to the Americas, have long puzzled historians. Could these represent knowledge of transatlantic voyages prior to Columbus? Some researchers suggest that the chapel's architecture encodes spiritual teachings, navigational knowledge, or even references to secret relics, serving as both a repository of sacred knowledge and a mnemonic device for initiates. If the chapel was intended as a coded guide, the possibility of transatlantic awareness of lands, plants, and perhaps hidden treasures becomes tantalizingly real. The Sinclair family, patrons of Rosslyn Chapel, were closely associated with the Templars. As Grand Masters in Scotland and Europe, they may have inherited knowledge, maps, and manuscripts from the dissolved order. The chapel itself, with its carved symbols, geometric patterns, and encoded inscriptions, reflects a sophisticated understanding of sacred architecture, symbolic communication, and mnemonic encoding. If some members of the Sinclair lineage voyaged westward or facilitated such journeys, the New World could bear subtle traces of European Templar influence reflected in stone, landscape, and oral memory. Oak Island, once again, provides a physical parallel. The layered construction, engineered obfuscation, and possible encoded measurements mirror European Templar vaults and fortresses. Both sites, Rosslyn Chapel and Oak Island, demonstrate an attention to secrecy, a use of geometry for preservation, and a symbolic logic that transcends mere construction. Whether through stone carvings or buried chambers, both European and American sites employ the same principles: concealment, encoding, and layered meaning. The Newport Tower continues this pattern. While its origins are debated, its circular design, precise alignment, and possible astronomical significance echo Templar European constructions. In both Europe and the Americas, circular architecture often signifies more than structural stability. It represents celestial order, ritual space, and encoded guidance. The Templars' use of geometry and alignment creates continuity, suggesting that knowledge carried westward retained both symbolic and practical function. Consider the broader European network as well. Many Templar sites were designed with sacred geometry, star alignments, and encoded inscriptions. Structures in France, Portugal, and Spain exhibit ratios, angles, and alignments consistent with celestial and symbolic principles. If some Templars migrated westward after the order's dissolution, These architectural methods would likely have been applied in the New World, adapted to terrain, latitude, and environmental conditions. Circular towers, stone alignments, and coded inscriptions become signatures of transatlantic continuity, a faint but discernible echo of European expertise. Even smaller markers hint at this continuity. Stone tools, carved objects, and minor architectural features in New England and Nova Scotia reflect craftsmanship consistent with European methods, often overlooked by conventional historians. When viewed alongside celestial alignments, geometric ratios, and symbolic motifs, these artifacts suggest deliberate placement, encoding, and preservation. The echoes of European Templar methods appear not only in grand constructions, but in subtle, easily overlooked details and network of meaning embedded in the landscape. Encoded inscriptions also bridge continents. The Kensington Runestone, with its runic alphabet, numeric sequences, and cryptic phrasing, mirrors European Templar traditions of encoding knowledge in manuscripts, inscriptions, and architectural elements. Such inscriptions often served multiple purposes: historical record, directional guide, and mnemonic device. In the New World, they function similarly, preserving knowledge across time while concealing meaning from the uninitiated. European methods of symbolic encoding thus appear replicated in distant territories, hinting at transatlantic transmission of both knowledge and intent. Astronomical alignment reinforces these echoes. European Templar sites frequently align with solstices, equinoxes, or prominent stars. Similar alignments appear in the Americas. From Newport Tower to scattered stone markers, the use of celestial events to encode meaning, guide travel, and signal important dates reflects continuity of practice. By observing the sky, Templars could transmit knowledge, align construction, and encode meaning without leaving obvious traces, a method as effective in the forests of New England as in the fields of France. Oral tradition adds another layer. Legends of lights, hidden chambers, and sudden discoveries recur in both Europe and the Americas. While folklore is rarely conclusive, repeated motifs suggest memory of extraordinary events. These narratives, when combined with physical structures and encoded symbols, reinforce the continuity between continents. European practices of secrecy, encoding, and symbolic communication appear mirrored across the Atlantic, hinting at deliberate transplantation rather than coincidence. The role of navigational knowledge is central. European Templars possessed maps, celestial knowledge, and techniques for long voyages. If members or associates of the order traveled to the Americas, they would have required encoded methods to mark locations, guide future travelers, and conceal knowledge. Oak Island, the Newport Tower, and other sites may represent the application of these techniques, physical markers embedded in the landscape, aligned with stars, rivers, and ridges, forming a network intelligible only to those trained in Templar methods. Even botanical knowledge forms part of this echo. Rosslyn Chapel's carvings of maize, aloe vera, and other non-European flora suggest awareness of the Americas' natural resources. While controversial, these carvings may indicate that Templars or their associates possessed Pre-Columbian knowledge of transatlantic territories. If so, this knowledge could have informed placement of structures, selection of markers, and preservation of treasure or manuscripts in the New World. Symbolic, botanical, and geographic knowledge converge to create a system both practical and mystical. The broader implication is a transatlantic network of knowledge. Europe provided the methodology, sacred geometry, astronomical alignment, symbolic encoding, and concealed documentation. The Americas offered a canvas, forests, islands, rivers, and ridges into which this knowledge could be mapped, preserved, and transmitted. Together, these continents form a continuum of Templar influence, a network spanning oceans, centuries, and cultures, even small alignments, such as stone placements along rivers or unusual terrain modifications, echo European practices. In Europe, Templar sites often integrate natural features into design, using landscape as both guide and protection. In the Americas, similar integration is evident. Stone markers, timbered constructions, and tunnels correspond with natural landmarks, creating both physical and symbolic connections across the landscape. The echoes of European methods are subtle but persistent, forming a hidden map of knowledge and intention. Manuscripts likely reinforce this network. Although few survive, European Templar texts reveal detailed instructions, encoded diagrams, and navigational guidance. Transatlantic travel would necessitate preservation of such texts, either physically or through encoded markers in stone and landscape, combined with celestial alignment, geometric design, and symbolic motifs. These manuscripts form part of a multi-layered system, information preserved, hidden, and yet accessible to the initiated. The psychological and strategic mindset of the Templars appears unchanged across continents. In Europe, secrecy, encoding, and layered concealment were paramount. In the Americas, these same principles are evident, sites difficult to excavate, inscriptions subtle, symbols layered with meaning. The methods ensured preservation, transmission, and protection, anticipating centuries of human curiosity while maintaining intentional obscurity. The convergence of evidence is compelling. From Rosslyn Chapel to Oak Island, from Newport Tower to the Kensington Runestone, European and American sites share architectural methods, symbolic motifs, encoded inscriptions, and celestial alignments. These echoes suggest not just migration, but continuity of knowledge, intention, and practice, a faint but persistent signature of Templar presence adapted to new lands. As this chapter closes, the significance of these European echoes becomes clear. The Templars, or those inspired by their methods, did not merely transport treasure across the Atlantic. They transported a worldview, a methodology, and a system of encoded knowledge capable of enduring centuries. European techniques, when mirrored in the Americas, form a hidden network linking continents, ideas, and generations. To understand the Templars' possible presence in the Americas, we must move beyond theory and examine specific case studies, locations, artifacts, and structures that bear the hallmarks of European Templar knowledge. These sites reveal patterns of secrecy, encoding, and geometry, and they suggest deliberate placement, careful planning, and layered meaning. From New England to Nova Scotia, from hidden pits to enigmatic towers, the physical evidence forms a network of clues, each node reinforcing the possibility that the Templars, or those inspired by them, traveled across the Atlantic. Oak Island, Nova Scotia, remains the most famous and enigmatic site. The Money Pit, first discovered in the late 18th century, has confounded treasure hunters for centuries. Yet beneath its allure as a repository of gold and jewels lies a system of concealment that reflects Templar methodology. Multiple layers of wood, stone, and flood tunnels suggest careful engineering intended to protect whatever lies below. The construction mirrors European Templar vaults and fortresses, where layered protection and encoded placement ensured longevity and secrecy. Each layer may encode directions, measurements, or symbolic meaning, forming both a physical and intellectual puzzle for future generations. Beyond the Money Pit itself, Oak Island's surrounding landscape contains additional markers and constructions. Swamp areas, water channels, and stone cairns appear deliberately arranged. Some researchers suggest that these features may function as navigational aids, symbolic markers, or encoded guides pointing to other hidden caches. The interplay between landscape, construction, and symbolism mirrors European Templar practices, where architecture, geometry, and natural features were integrated into a coherent, concealed system. The Newport Tower, in Rhode Island, provides another compelling case study. Its circular design, thick walls, and careful alignment suggest advanced knowledge of both geometry and astronomy. While traditionally explained as a colonial windmill, its orientation and construction methods align with celestial events, hinting at a symbolic purpose beyond the practical. Circular towers of this kind were common in Templar Europe, serving both ceremonial and mnemonic functions. In this context, the Newport Tower may represent a transplanted European method, adapted to the New World while retaining symbolic and functional significance. The Kensington Runestone adds textual evidence to this physical network. Found in Minnesota, the stone contains runic inscriptions, numeric sequences, and cryptic phrasing that some argue are consistent with pre-Columbian exploration. While authenticity remains debated, certain patterns in the inscriptions mirror European Templar methods of encoding information in stone. Beyond a mere historical record, the runestone may function as a guide, a mnemonic device, or a symbolic marker, connecting physical presence with encoded meaning. The numeric patterns, runes, and placement suggest intentionality, reflecting the order's sophisticated approach to secrecy. Stone alignments in New England forests and other remote areas further illustrate the pattern. Many of these formations appear arbitrary until analyzed for geometry, orientation, and relationship to celestial events. Triangular arrangements, circular stone formations, and alignments with ridges or rivers suggest deliberate planning. Such arrangements are consistent with European Templar sites, where geometry and celestial alignment were integral to both symbolism and functionality. When plotted collectively, these markers form a subtle network, creating a map intelligible only to those trained in the relevant symbolic and geometric language. Rosslyn Chapel provides the European counterpart to these American sites. Its carvings, including cryptic geometric patterns, symbolic motifs, and depictions of plants native to the Americas, suggest knowledge that predates Columbus. The chapel integrates sacred geometry, encoded symbolism, and mnemonic devices, serving both spiritual and practical functions. By studying its patterns and symbols alongside American constructions, researchers can identify echoes of European methodology. Towers, pits, and inscriptions in the New World mirror the European approach: deliberate design, layered meaning, and encoded guidance. The Zano map offers cartographic evidence that complements these case studies. Though its origins remain contested, the map depicts territories far to the west of Europe, with astonishingly accurate coastlines and islands. Whether created by explorers, Templars, or their associates, it demonstrates knowledge of transatlantic geography before Columbus. When combined with physical markers like Oak Island or Newport Tower, the map suggests not only exploration, but a deliberate network of markers, guides, and encoded knowledge. The Zano map becomes more than a chart. It functions as a cognitive framework, connecting Europe and the Americas in a system intelligible to those possessing the keys to interpretation. Carved stones and minor artifacts also deserve attention. Tools, small carved stones, and unusual architectural features often appear mundane at first glance, yet their placement, orientation, or relation to nearby structures suggests deliberate intention. When analyzed alongside celestial alignments, geometry, and encoded inscriptions, these artifacts reveal layered meaning. Like punctuation in a text, they guide interpretation, reinforce encoded messages, and link disparate sites into a cohesive network. Astronomical alignment is central to these case studies. Many American markers correspond to solstices, equinoxes, or prominent stars, reflecting the European Templar practice of embedding celestial knowledge into architecture and landscape. Observing these alignments allowed the Templars to encode both temporal and spatial information, dates, directions, and symbolic meaning without leaving explicit instructions. The combination of celestial markers and geometric design ensures durability, precision, and secrecy, preserving knowledge across centuries. The Venus families and star-aligned sites mentioned in previous chapters may also fit into this network. Certain North American locations align with the rising and setting of Venus, forming geometric patterns reminiscent of European sacred sites. Whether marking ceremonial areas, hidden treasures, or encoded knowledge, these alignments reflect deliberate observation of celestial cycles. The repetition of astronomical precision across multiple sites reinforces the presence of a methodical transatlantic system. Even folklore and oral tradition support these case studies. Stories of lights in forests, mysterious towers, sudden discoveries, and hidden treasures recur across regions. Though anecdotal, these narratives often coincide with physical markers or geometric alignments. Folklore may function as a mnemonic layer, preserving memory of extraordinary events or encoded knowledge when physical evidence is obscured. Oral tradition becomes a companion to stone, landscape, and manuscript, reinforcing the network across centuries. The hooked X symbol, associated with the Kensington Runestone and other American markers, further illustrates continuity. Found in inscriptions, architectural features, and cryptic carvings, it suggests deliberate encoding. The symbol's recurrence in multiple contexts, European manuscripts, North American stones, and ceremonial spaces supports the idea of a connected network. Its purpose may range from identifying trusted markers to encoding information about location, timing, or significance. Engineering and construction techniques offer additional insight. Oak Island's water traps, layered stone, and wood constructions reflect advanced planning, echoing European methods of securing treasures or sacred objects. Circular towers like Newport Tower mirror European circular constructions with careful alignment and symbolic meaning. Even small anomalies, stones set out of pattern, carved features in unexpected places reflect intention, precision, and encoding. Collectively, these features suggest a sophisticated system rather than isolated coincidences. The integration of multiple layers of evidence is crucial. Physical markers, architectural structures, astronomical alignment, geometric design, symbolic motifs, inscriptions, manuscripts, and oral traditions converge to form a network. Each element reinforces the others, creating redundancy that preserves meaning, increases resilience, and ensures survival across time. The complexity and consistency of this network suggest deliberate planning, reflecting the same intelligence, foresight, and secrecy characteristic of European Templars. Modern researchers often approach these sites individually, but a holistic perspective reveals connections spanning continents and centuries. When mapped collectively, Oak Island, Newport Tower, Rosslyn Chapel, the Kensington Runestone, and various stone alignments form a subtle, continent-spanning network. Geometry, celestial alignment, and symbolic encoding integrate seamlessly, creating a system of guidance, preservation, and secrecy that remains intelligible to those trained in its principles. These case studies also highlight the dual nature of Templar treasure. Material wealth, gold, jewels, and relics may exist, but intellectual and spiritual knowledge appears equally important. Encoded manuscripts, symbolic markers, and mnemonic constructions indicate that the Templars valued knowledge preservation alongside material protection. In this sense, the network is not merely a map to treasure but a transmission of understanding. Geometry, astronomy, ritual, and encoded wisdom encoded across continents. The interplay of risk and secrecy remains central. European Templars understood the consequences of exposure, and the same principles likely informed New World placements. Difficult to excavate structures, encoded inscriptions, and subtle landscape integration all reflect a strategy designed to protect knowledge, while leaving clues for the initiated. Each site, whether Oak Island, Newport Tower, or the Kensington Runestone, represents both a safeguard and a guide, balancing concealment with accessibility. In conclusion, these case studies illustrate the possibility of a transatlantic Templar network. Structures, inscriptions, geometric patterns, celestial alignments, and folklore collectively suggest deliberate planning, encoding, and preservation. The evidence spans continents, integrating European methodology with New World landscapes, and preserving knowledge, treasure, and symbolic meaning across centuries. As this chapter closes, the pattern becomes undeniable. Stones, towers, manuscripts, and markers collectively hint at a deliberate, intelligent, and enduring system. The Templars, or those inspired by their methods, may have traversed oceans not only to hide treasure, but to establish a network of knowledge encoded in stone, landscape, and story, awaiting those able to perceive its meaning. As we move deeper into the Templar trail, it becomes clear that their presence in the Americas may not have been solely material. Beyond treasure and encoded markers lies a network of ritual, symbolism, and encoded practice, a system designed to preserve spiritual, intellectual, and ceremonial knowledge. In Europe, the Templars were not merely knights and financiers. They were custodians of sacred wisdom, trained in ritual, geometry, and symbolism that conveyed meaning across generations. The question arises, could these practices have been transplanted to the New World, embedded in stone, landscape, and celestial alignment, awaiting those capable of decoding their significance? Rosslyn Chapel again serves as a European touchstone. Its carvings, geometric patterns, and cryptic motifs reflect a deeply symbolic worldview. Triangular motifs, interlaced arches, and vegetal carvings appear not only decorative but instructive, encoding both spiritual and ritual knowledge. Scholars and enthusiasts have speculated about hidden chambers, cryptic symbols, and encoded messages. Some carvings depict maize and other non-European flora, suggesting awareness of transatlantic lands. But more importantly, the symbolic geometry reflects ritualized understanding, a template of sacred action made permanent in stone. In the Americas, similar practices appear faintly, yet persistently. The Newport Tower may have functioned not merely as a structure, but as a ceremonial or symbolic space. Its circular form, aligned with celestial events, echoes European Templar architecture, where circular and polygonal designs often represented cycles of life, celestial order, or ritual completeness. The positioning of openings, thickness of walls, and even the relationship to surrounding landscape may encode ceremonial intent, suggesting that physical space itself was part of the ritual. Oak Island, too, offers clues beyond mere treasure. The money pit's engineering, water traps, and layered construction may have symbolic meaning. European Templars often encoded ritual significance in vaults, chambers, and hidden spaces. Each layer, tunnel, or chamber could symbolize progression, purification, or a step in ceremonial enactment. The act of constructing, navigating, or uncovering these layers may have been part of a ritualized practice, training, preparation, or ceremonial journey intended to align seeker and space in a sacred continuum. Encoded practices often integrate landscape and celestial observation, alignments with solstices, equinoxes, or prominent stars appear across both European and American sites. The Templars' knowledge of astronomy informed both practical navigation and symbolic action. Markers, stones, and structures aligned to celestial events may have served dual purposes, guiding travelers and embedding ritual meaning into the landscape. Observing the rising sun on a solstice or the position of a star may have been both directional and ceremonial, linking action to cosmic cycles. The Kensington Runestone may reflect ritualized inscription beyond numeric sequences and runes. Its placement and orientation hint at ceremonial intent. In Europe, Templars encoded ritual knowledge in manuscripts, inscriptions, and architectural motifs, translating these methods to the Americas. A stone in the landscape could serve as both a directional guide and a ceremonial marker, aligning human action with symbolic meaning. Its inscriptions may have encoded timing, sequence, or hierarchical instruction, guiding those trained in ritual decoding. Symbolic motifs in stone and would reinforce these connections. Triangles, circles, pentagons, and interlaced patterns recur across multiple sites. In European Templar practice, such shapes conveyed layered meaning, spiritual principles, stages of initiation, or sacred geometry principles. When mirrored in American markers, towers, stone formations, and landscape alignments, these symbols suggest deliberate transplantation of ceremonial knowledge. Geometry itself becomes a language, encoding spiritual, intellectual, and ritual information. Oral tradition and folklore may preserve echoes of ritual practice, stories of mysterious lights, sudden illumination, or unexpected discoveries often coincide with significant markers or sites. Folklore may encode ceremonial events, mnemonic devices, or cautionary instruction, providing a narrative companion to physical and symbolic markers. Legends of hidden chambers, lights in forests, and strange alignments are not merely entertainment. They may preserve fragments of ritualized practice, encoded for those capable of interpreting them. European Templars often used layers of concealment. As part of ritual, vaults, hidden chambers, and coded inscriptions served practical purposes, but also encoded ceremonial significance. The act of seeking, uncovering, or navigating these spaces may itself have been ritualized, a journey of preparation, trial, or alignment. In the Americas, Oak Island and other sites exhibit the same layering. Water traps, stone barriers, and layered construction suggest both protection and ceremonial sequence, reinforcing the notion that engagement with space could have been part of sacred enactment. Numerical encoding complements ritual practice. European Templars embedded numeric meaning in manuscripts, inscriptions, and architectural elements. Numbers conveyed hierarchy, sequence, and sacred ratios. Across American sites, recurring numeric patterns, runic sequences, distances between markers, or ratios in structures suggest similar encoding. These numeric codes may have guided ceremonial timing, ritual sequences, or symbolic interpretation, linking European methods to New World practice. Integration of natural features is another hallmark of Templar ritual. European sites often align with rivers, ridges, hills, or other natural landmarks, integrating landscape into ceremonial space. In the Americas, stone markers, towers, and pits correspond with natural features, suggesting deliberate selection for ritual and symbolic purposes. The environment itself becomes part of the ceremonial canvas, aligning human activity with the natural and cosmic order. Maps and manuscripts, though largely lost, may have instructed ritual practice as well. European Templar texts often encoded ceremonial sequences, directions, and symbolic meaning. Transatlantic transport of such knowledge would have allowed ritualized engagement with hidden spaces in the Americas. Combined with geometric and celestial encoding, these texts could create a multi-layered ceremonial system integrating landscape, stone, astronomy, and numeric encoding into coherent ritual practice. The Venus alignments and star-based markers discussed in previous chapters reinforce this interpretation. Celestial cycles informed both practical navigation and symbolic action. The positioning of stones, markers, and constructions in relation to these cycles may encode ritual sequences, ceremonial timing, or symbolic meaning. Stars become guides not only for physical orientation, but for ceremonial engagement, linking human activity to cosmic rhythm. Case studies reveal repeated motifs across multiple sites. Triangular stone formations, circular towers, coded inscriptions, and celestial alignments appear in Nova Scotia, New England, and beyond. European Templar practices ritualized construction, sacred geometry. Encoded manuscripts appear echoed in each case, suggesting deliberate replication. Ritual and symbolism are inseparable from concealment and preservation. The act of hiding knowledge and treasure is itself ceremonial, linking human action to sacred principles. Even minor artifact stools, carved stones, or architectural anomalies may function within ritualized networks. Their placement, orientation, and geometric relation to larger constructions suggest ceremonial meaning. Like punctuation in a coded manuscript, these minor markers guide interpretation, reinforce encoded knowledge, and integrate discrete sites into a larger ritual network spanning the Americas. The psychology of secrecy and ritual is evident. Templars were trained to anticipate discovery, encode meaning, and protect sacred knowledge. Ritual practice and ceremonial encoding reinforce these goals, transforming concealment into a meaningful, structured system. In the Americas, Oak Island, Newport Tower, and other markers reflect the same mindset: deliberate planning, layered symbolism, and encoded guidance, creating continuity across centuries and continents. Folklore and oral tradition, geometric alignment, celestial observation, encoded inscriptions, and architectural markers collectively suggest that the Templars' presence in the Americas was ceremonial, symbolic, and intellectual, not merely physical. Knowledge, ritual practice, and sacred principles were preserved alongside material treasures, creating a transatlantic network intelligible only to those trained in the order's methods. The convergence of evidence across continents supports a remarkable conclusion. From Rosslyn Chapel to Oak Island, from Newport Tower to the Kensington Runestone, European ritual, encoded symbolism, and sacred practice appear mirrored in the Americas. This continuity suggests intentional transplantation of knowledge, ceremonial methods, and encoded practice, a deliberate effort to preserve wisdom across oceans, centuries, and generations. As this chapter closes, the importance of ritual and symbolic encoding becomes clear. Physical structures, inscriptions, stone markers, celestial alignments, and folklore form a layered system of meaning, guiding seekers and preserving knowledge. Across centuries, the Templars' methods were not merely architectural or engineering feats, they were ceremonial, spiritual, and intellectual, embedding encoded practice into the landscape itself. As centuries passed, the physical markers, encoded inscriptions, and subtle alignments left by the Templars in Europe and potentially the Americas became objects of curiosity, legend, and obsession. Modern explorers, historians, and treasure hunters have approached sites like Oak Island, Newport Tower, and the Kensington Runestone with both reverence and skepticism, attempting to decipher meaning, recover treasure, and understand the hidden networks that may link continents. These investigations are not merely about gold or relics. They are attempts to connect with centuries-old methods of concealment, encoded knowledge, and ritual practice, a dialogue with the past across time and space. Oak Island, Nova Scotia, remains the crown jewel, of modern exploration. Beginning in the late 1700s, individuals noticed unusual depressions, mounds, and structures suggesting hidden chambers below the surface. Early excavations encountered water-filled pits, stone layers, and wooden constructions, yet treasure, if present, remained elusive. Over time, a succession of explorers, each more determined than the last, attempted to unravel the mystery. Modern technology, from sonar scanning to advanced drilling, has revealed layers, tunnels, and anomalies that hint at deliberate construction, yet the ultimate secret remains hidden. The Money Pit exemplifies the intersection of human curiosity, engineering ingenuity, and the persistence of secrecy. Centuries of excavation reveal complexity, but the core remains impenetrable. Beyond Oak Island, the Newport Tower continues to captivate researchers. Its circular design, thick stone walls, and alignment with celestial events defy simple explanations. Archaeologists, historians, and amateur explorers have debated its origin for centuries. Some argue colonial windmill, others European Templar construction. Modern studies, including surveys of wall thickness, masonry techniques, and alignment with solstices, reinforce the possibility of advanced knowledge transferred across the Atlantic. Explorers walk its circumference, measure angles, and trace sightlines, attempting to unlock the symbolic and functional intent encoded within stone. The Kensington Runestone, discovered in Minnesota in the late 19th century, has drawn both skepticism and fascination. Linguists, historians, and amateur cryptographers analyze its runes, numeric sequences, and orientation. Some suggest it documents Pre-Columbian exploration, others dismiss it as a hoax. Modern technology, however, including 3D scanning and chemical analysis of the stone, offers new avenues of interpretation. Researchers attempt to reconcile runic inscriptions with European Templar methods of encoding, searching for patterns in orientation, numbers, and phrasing that could link the stone to a transatlantic network. Across New England and the Midwest, stone alignments and minor markers have attracted explorers, surveyors, and amateur historians. Triangular stone formations, circular arrangements, and isolated monoliths appear almost randomly in forests and fields, yet closer analysis reveals patterns, alignment with ridges, rivers, or celestial events. Repetition of geometric ratios, subtle encoded inscriptions. Modern exploration combines GPS mapping, drone surveys, and photogrammetry to chart these formations, seeking connections that traditional observation might miss. Each alignment, each stone, becomes a node in a potentially vast network, a piece of a puzzle that spans centuries and continents. Modern explorers also consider the role of folklore, legends of lights in forests, mysterious sounds, or sudden discoveries often coincide with physical markers. Contemporary researchers study these stories not merely as entertainment, but as encoded memory, possibly preserving ritual or ceremonial significance. Interviews, archival research, and cross-referencing of oral traditions allow investigators to reconstruct networks of meaning, connecting legend, landscape, and stone. Folklore, in this sense, becomes a supplementary map, a guide alongside physical exploration and technological surveying. Geometric and celestial analysis has become increasingly central to modern exploration. Surveyors use laser rangefinders, compass bearings, and astronomical software to determine alignments with solstices, equinoxes, and prominent stars. Sites that might appear arbitrary often reveal subtle precision when plotted against celestial events. Observing these alignments, explorers attempt to decode patterns left intentionally, reflecting Templar methods of combining geometry, ritual, and navigation. Each successful alignment offers a glimpse into centuries-old knowledge, preserved in stone and landscape, waiting for the initiated observer. Modern exploration also extends to archival research and manuscript study. Historians and enthusiasts search libraries, museums, and private collections for fragments of European Templar texts, maps, or instructions that might illuminate New World networks. Manuscripts, whether encoded or fragmented, could reveal intended placements, symbolic meanings, or encoded measurements by correlating archival research with physical markers. Modern explorers attempt to reconstruct a transatlantic system of knowledge linking continents, centuries, and encoded practice into a coherent, interpretable whole. The intersection of technology and tradition has transformed the search. Ground-penetrating radar, sonar, LiDAR mapping, and 3D modeling allow explorers to see beneath layers of earth and vegetation, revealing structures that remain hidden from casual observation. Drone surveys capture patterns across forests, rivers, and fields, revealing alignments and geometric layouts invisible from the ground. These technological tools, combined with traditional observation and historical research, provide unprecedented opportunities to decode networks of Templar influence in the Americas. Yet, despite centuries of effort, the ultimate secrets remain elusive. Oak Island's money pit continues to defy excavation. Newport Tower resists conclusive attribution. The Kensington Runestone's authenticity remains debated. Modern explorers confront the same challenge that faced centuries of Templars, balancing curiosity, discovery, and secrecy. Perhaps this is intentional. Encoded knowledge, ritual practice, and concealed treasure were designed to endure, only accessible to those capable of perceiving patterns, interpreting symbols, and understanding alignment across multiple layers of meaning. Exploration is also a psychological and cultural endeavor. Researchers and treasure hunters confront the tension between skepticism and belief, between empirical evidence and legend. Some seek gold, others knowledge. Some pursue ritual understanding, others adventure. Across centuries, the sites themselves, whether stone, pit, or tower, impose patience, precision, and reflection. The process of exploration, it seems, mirrors the Templars' methods: careful observation, attention to detail, and reverence for encoded meaning. Modern exploration is not without controversy. Skeptics dismiss Oak Island as a natural formation, the Newport Tower as a colonial windmill, and the Kensington Runestone as a hoax. Yet patterns, alignments, and recurring symbols across disparate sites challenge dismissive explanations. When multiple forms of evidence, geometric, astronomical, symbolic, and textual, converge, the probability of deliberate design rises. Modern explorers must navigate these debates, balancing scientific rigor with imaginative interpretation. In pursuit of understanding centuries-old concealment, case studies illustrate this balance. At Oak Island, sonar and drilling reveal anomalies consistent with deliberate construction. At Newport Tower, astronomical plotting suggests solar and lunar alignment. At the Kensington Runestone, linguistic and numeric analysis hints at encoding. Across forests and rivers, stone alignments reflect geometric intention. In each case, modern exploration is not simply excavation, it is decoding, interpretation, and engagement with a hidden network. Technology also allows public participation. Enthusiasts, historians, and amateur researchers contribute observations, photographs, and measurements, expanding the network of investigation. Citizen scientists map stone alignments, compare measurements, and test alignments with celestial cycles. In this way, modern exploration mirrors Templar collaboration. Knowledge is preserved, shared selectively, and interpreted with care. Each contributor adds to a growing understanding of a network that may span continents. The psychology of exploration is integral. Treasure hunters, historians, and enthusiasts are drawn to sites by legend, pattern, and encoded meaning. This pursuit, often frustrating, sometimes fruitless, echoes the original Templar intent. Knowledge, ritual, and treasure were designed to challenge, test, and engage seekers. Modern explorers, consciously or not, participate in centuries-old methods of concealment and discovery, retracing the steps, methods, and logic of those who created these networks. Modern study also incorporates comparative analysis with European sites, Rosslyn chapels carvings, European Templar vaults, and encoded manuscripts provide reference points. By comparing design, alignment, and symbolic motifs, researchers attempt to link New World sites to European precedents. Triangular stone arrangements, circular towers, encoded inscriptions, and celestial alignment all reflect shared methodology, suggesting continuity of knowledge and intention across continents. Despite modern tools and techniques, much remains undeciphered. Encoded inscriptions may resist translation, celestial alignments may be ambiguous, and structural anomalies may defy explanation. Yet the persistence of patterns, the consistency of alignment, and the recurrence of symbolic motifs across centuries and continents suggest intentionality. Modern exploration continues the Templars' legacy, engaging with systems of knowledge that were designed to endure, challenge, and protect. As this chapter closes, one truth emerges: modern explorers, like the Templars before them, navigate layers of concealment, encoded meaning, and ritualized action. Oak Island, Newport Tower, the Kensington Runestone, and scattered stone alignments across forests and rivers remain both mysteries and guides, offering glimpses of a network that spans centuries. The search is not merely for treasure, it is a dialogue with history, a quest to decode knowledge preserved across time, and a continuation of centuries-old methods of observation, secrecy, and interpretation. As we approach the culmination of our exploration, a pattern begins to emerge, one that spans continents, centuries, and disciplines. The scattered sites, encoded inscriptions, celestial alignments, and symbolic markers we have examined throughout Europe and the Americas are not isolated curiosities. When viewed collectively, they form a cohesive network of knowledge, concealment, and ritual practice that suggests deliberate design. Each tower, stone, pit, and manuscript contributes to a system intelligible only to those trained in the Templar methodology. By examining the interplay of architecture, geometry, astronomy, and folklore, we can begin to understand how this network may have functioned and what it was intended to preserve. Oak Island, with its layered money pit, hidden flood tunnels, and surrounding markers, remains the clearest example of this network in physical form. Modern exploration has revealed anomalies that defy simple explanation. Stone layers too precise to be natural, flood channels engineered with skill, and evidence of multiple phases of construction. Beyond the pursuit of treasure, the design itself may reflect encoded knowledge, a sequence of actions, measurements, and symbols that mirror Templar European methods of concealment. Oak Island is not merely a repository. It is a node in a broader system, connected by intention, method, and encoded meaning to sites across the continent. Newport Tower contributes a complementary node. Its circular construction, thick masonry, and alignment with celestial events suggest ritual or symbolic function. The tower's orientation, potentially corresponding with solstice or lunar events, mirrors European practices of aligning sacred or functional architecture with cosmic cycles. By situating the tower in relation to surrounding landmarks early, builders may have encoded directional guidance or symbolic instruction. creating a subtle link to other sites within the network. The Kensington Runestone introduces a textual node, potentially encoding navigational, geographic, or ritual knowledge. Its runic inscriptions, numeric patterns, and orientation may serve as mnemonic devices, directional guides, or ceremonial markers in European tradition. Templars often embedded layered meaning in inscriptions when replicated in North America. Such devices could transmit knowledge across centuries, leaving tangible proof of encoded methodology. The Runestone, alongside physical structures like Oak Island and Newport Tower, illustrates the convergence of text, symbol, and landscape across New England, Nova Scotia, and the Midwest. Stone alignments and minor markers reinforce this network. Circular arrangements, triangular formations, and isolated monoliths appear positioned with precision relative to natural features, celestial events, and other markers. Modern surveys suggest these placements are deliberate rather than random, reflecting European methods of landscape integration. By connecting these sites conceptually, a network emerges, a system of encoded guidance, symbolic meaning, and ceremonial structure that spans forests, rivers, and coastlines. Celestial alignment remains a central theme, from solstices to Venus, cycles from prominent stars to equinoxes. Markers across the Americas reflect careful observation of the sky. European Templars utilized celestial events to guide construction, timing, and ritual. The same principles appear in New World sites. The precision of these alignments suggests advanced knowledge of astronomy, not mere coincidence. By mapping sites according to celestial events, modern researchers can trace connections, reconstruct sequences, and hypothesize functional relationships within the network. Geometric encoding further strengthens these links. Triangles, pentagons, circles, and interlaced patterns recur across sites, echoing European sacred geometry. These forms were not decorative, they encoded spiritual, navigational, and mnemonic information. In the Americas, repeating geometric motifs suggest intentional replication, translating European methodology into new terrain. Each formation, each placement, acts as a spatial code, guiding both physical action and intellectual understanding. Rosslyn Chapel, the European epicenter of encoded Templar knowledge, provides insight into the potential function of the network. Its carvings, botanical motifs, and geometric patterns reflect principles that could be replicated across oceans. Encoding of knowledge, ritual practice, and preservation of wisdom. Carvings of maize and aloe vera indicate awareness of the Americas, while cryptic geometric arrangements suggest transferable methods of concealment and symbolic communication. By comparing Rosslyn with American sites, a continuity of method and intention becomes discernible. Folklore and oral tradition complement the physical and symbolic network. Stories of lights, sudden discoveries, and hidden chambers preserve memory of events and places. Legends often coincide with physical markers or celestial alignment, suggesting that narrative itself is a node within the network. Folklore may encode ceremonial steps, mnemonic cues, or symbolic guidance, ensuring that knowledge survives even when physical evidence is obscured. The network, therefore, operates across multiple layers: stone, sky, text, and story. The hooked X, a recurring symbol found on the Kensington Runestone and other markers, exemplifies the convergence of encoding, ritual, and navigation. Its repetition across sites suggests a shared symbolic language, signaling intent, location, or hierarchy of access. Symbols like the hooked X form a connective tissue within the network, linking distant sites through recognizable motifs that encode meaning. For those trained to interpret them, modern exploration attempts to map these connections comprehensively. By combining archival research, archaeological survey, celestial analysis, and technological tools. Researchers attempt to reconstruct a system that was designed to resist casual interpretation. LiDAR mapping, ground-penetrating radar, and drone surveys reveal physical alignments invisible to the naked eye, while archival analysis uncovers references, manuscripts, and maps that may explain placement and intent. Together, these approaches offer a multi-dimensional reconstruction of the network. The interplay of secrecy and accessibility is also evident. European Templars engineered spaces and inscriptions to protect knowledge, while leaving subtle cues. For initiates, American sites reflect the same principle: difficulty of access, obscured construction, and encoded markers that reward careful observation. The network functions not merely as a repository of treasure, but as a system of training, testing, and preserving knowledge, one that engages intellect, observation, and ritualized action. Botanical knowledge further integrates the network. Plant carvings, herb references, and symbolic representations of flora may encode geographic knowledge, resource awareness, or ceremonial instruction. Maize, aloe vera, and other non-European plants appear symbolically in European carvings, potentially informing site placement, resource selection, or ritual practice in the Americas. These botanical cues create subtle connections, linking European observation to American landscape and encoded practice. The psychological dimension of the network cannot be ignored. Modern explorers report an almost tactile sense of continuity, a feeling that sites are interconnected not only physically, but intellectually and spiritually. This mirrors the original Templar intent. Encoded methods, ceremonial practice, and strategic concealment were designed to engage human cognition, persistence, and interpretive skill. Sites are not simply locations, they are puzzles, tests, and guides embedded within landscape and history. Taken together, these elements, physical markers, inscriptions, celestial alignment, geometry, folklore, symbolism, and botanical cues form a transatlantic network that is remarkably coherent. Each site reinforces others, creating redundancy, ensuring longevity, and encoding multi-layered knowledge. This network is not random. It exhibits deliberate construction, careful observation, and continuity of method across centuries and continents. Even minor anomalies become meaningful within the network. A single stone out of pattern, a subtle carving, or an unusual orientation may act as a connective node, signaling relationships between distant sites. Modern analysis of patterns across the Americas reveals alignment, repetition, and symbolic consistency that suggest a deliberate, overarching plan. Every element, from the largest tower to the smallest stone, contributes to a system of encoded knowledge. The role of manuscripts and maps in this network remains critical. European texts, now mostly lost or fragmented, likely provided instruction, mnemonic devices, and encoded reference points. Transatlantic transport of knowledge, whether through physical manuscripts, oral instruction, or encoded practice, ensured continuity across time and space. Combined with physical markers, celestial observation, and geometric encoding, manuscripts would have been an essential layer within the network, bridging continents and generations. The modern implication of this network is profound. Contemporary explorers, historians, and enthusiasts participate in a centuries-old dialogue, engaging with systems of knowledge designed to endure. Oak Island, Newport Tower, the Kensington Runestone, and stone alignments become active nodes within this ongoing investigation, revealing both physical and intellectual continuity. Modern technology amplifies observation, but the underlying challenge remains the same: decoding layered meaning, interpreting symbolic language, and tracing connections that span oceans and centuries. Ultimately, the network suggests a Deliberate. Templar presence in the Americas not merely as transient explorers or treasure seekers, but as custodians of encoded knowledge, ceremonial practice, and symbolic understanding. Sites functioned as repositories, guides, and tests, preserving wisdom through multiple layers of physical, celestial, and symbolic encoding. The network, if reconstructed correctly, provides a glimpse of a hidden system that bridges continents, time, and human understanding. As this chapter closes, the vision of the network becomes tangible, a series of interconnected nodes, stone, tower, inscription, alignment, and legend forming a web of meaning, purpose, and secrecy. From Europe to the Americas, the Templars' methods endure, encoded, layered, and resilient. Their network remains a testament to meticulous planning, intellectual foresight, and ceremonial sophistication, inviting those who can perceive its patterns to uncover the knowledge, ritual, and perhaps treasure hidden within. The next chapter will explore the social, political, and academic resistance to these theories, examining why the Templars' potential presence in the Americas has been largely dismissed, ridiculed, or ignored, and the challenges faced by those who continue to investigate these enduring mysteries. As our journey progresses, a shadow emerges, not one of mystery, but of resistance. Despite centuries of physical evidence, encoded inscriptions, celestial alignment, and carefully constructed networks of markers, the idea of a Templar presence in the Americas has been met with skepticism, ridicule, and outright dismissal. Historians, archaeologists, and academics often reject such theories, citing lack of incontrovertible proof, misinterpretation of artifacts, or the possibility of hoaxes. Yet beneath this resistance lies a complex web of professional caution, cultural expectation, and institutional inertia that has shaped how Templar theories are received and ignored over generations. The Oak Island debate exemplifies this tension. For centuries, treasure hunters have documented anomalies, tunnels, stone layers, and unexplained flooding mechanisms. Yet mainstream archaeology often regards these findings as natural formations, exaggerations, or misinterpretations. The very act of seeking treasure is sometimes viewed as unscientific, dismissing the possibility that methodical observation, geometric analysis, and historical research could reveal intentional construction. Critics argue that layering, tunnels, and pits could result from natural processes. Yet the precision, sequence, and alignment observed in multiple studies suggest deliberate design that challenges such conventional interpretations. Similarly, the Newport Tower has long been a site of academic dispute. Scholars largely accept the colonial windmill theory, citing historical records, construction methods, and practical function. Yet alternative explanations, European Templar origin, circular ceremonial tower, or symbolic astronomical alignment, have been met with skepticism. Researchers presenting evidence of solstice or lunar alignment, geometric encoding, or architectural parallels with European Templar constructions are often dismissed as speculative or fringe. The tension reflects an academic reluctance to reconcile conventional narratives with possibilities that challenge established historical timelines. The Kensington Runestone is another point of contention. Discovered in Minnesota in the late 19th century, the stone has been both championed as evidence of Pre-Columbian exploration and derided as a hoax. Linguists debate runic patterns, numeric sequences, and phrasing, often concluding that inconsistencies discredit its authenticity. Yet modern analysis, chemical testing, 3D scanning, and comparative linguistic study suggests that conventional dismissals may be premature. Even when evidence hints at historical validity, the academic community often prioritizes caution over speculation. leaving anomalies unexplained rather than acknowledged as potential markers of a hidden network. Rosslyn Chapel, despite being widely recognized for its architectural beauty and mysterious carvings, faces similar challenges. The inclusion of maize, aloe vera, and cryptic geometric patterns in carvings is often ignored or rationalized as coincidental. Scholars hesitant to embrace transatlantic implications frequently interpret the carvings symbolically, rather than literally. Yet the possibility remains that these motifs reflect advanced knowledge, ceremonial encoding, or awareness of lands across the ocean. In this context, resistance is not necessarily skepticism of evidence, but reluctance to challenge entrenched historical paradigms. Academic resistance is further reinforced by cultural and professional pressures. Researchers suggesting alternative interpretations often face professional marginalization, publication challenges, or reputational risk. The Templar presence in the Americas challenges conventional timelines, historical methodology, and cultural narratives, proposing pre-Columbian transatlantic contact, secret networks, or encoded ceremonial practice risks being labeled pseudo-history, regardless of supporting evidence. As a result, many capable researchers either avoid the topic entirely or proceed cautiously, emphasizing speculation over assertion and cautious phrasing over bold interpretation. Folklore and oral tradition, while rich in detail and consistency, is often dismissed as anecdotal or unreliable, yet repeated motif slights in forests, mysterious tunnels, coded stone alignments persist across centuries and regions. The academic reluctance to engage seriously with oral tradition obscures potential insight, leaving patterns hidden in plain sight. Folklore, when combined with physical markers, celestial alignment, and symbolic encoding, could provide critical context, yet mainstream resistance often excludes these sources from serious consideration. Modern technological exploration, while more rigorous, encounters the same skepticism. Ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR mapping, and drone surveys reveal anomalies, alignments, and structural precision, yet results are often interpreted conservatively, with natural formation and coincidence preferred explanations. Researchers presenting evidence of intentional engineering, geometric encoding, or celestial alignment are frequently questioned, with their interpretations labeled speculative. This cautious approach, while understandable in academic rigor, can obscure patterns that emerge only through a holistic, multidisciplinary perspective. Resistance also manifests in historical orthodoxy, the accepted narrative of discovery, and colonization centers on Columbus, Cabot, and subsequent European expeditions. Suggesting pre-Columbian Templar presence challenges the chronological and cultural framework, demanding reinterpretation of maps, artifacts, and manuscripts. Historians must weigh evidence against entrenched frameworks, often erring on the side of dismissal rather than reconsideration. Yet the convergence of markers, inscriptions, and alignments across multiple sites demands acknowledgement. Even if interpretation remains uncertain, the hooked X symbol, appearing across multiple markers and inscriptions, exemplifies the clash between evidence and skepticism. While recurring, deliberate, and contextually significant, it is often dismissed as coincidence or fabrication. The very patterns that suggest networked intentionality are subject to reinterpretation, reduced to randomness by academic caution. Yet when considered alongside geometry, celestial alignment, and ritual encoding, the symbol reinforces the possibility of a deliberate transatlantic system, a system that modern academia often hesitates to confront. Professional risk extends to personal and financial stakes. Researchers pursuing controversial theories often face criticism from peers, funding challenges, and exclusion from conferences or journals. The history of Templar studies in the Americas is peppered with individuals marginalized for pursuing lines of inquiry deemed too speculative or disruptive. Yet these very risks underscore the significance of the subject. Knowledge, treasure, and ritual networks designed for secrecy persist across centuries precisely because they challenge casual investigation. Despite skepticism, a growing number of independent researchers, citizen scientists, and interdisciplinary teams are revisiting these sites, armed with technology, historical methods, and cross-disciplinary knowledge. They explore geometric alignments, celestial cycles, encoded inscriptions, and landscape patterns. Their work demonstrates that resistance does not imply absence of pattern, rather, it highlights the tension between conventional academic frameworks and evidence that exists outside traditional expectations. Even when confronted with anomalies, the persistence of pattern across continents remains remarkable. Oak Island, Newport Tower, Kensington Runestone, stone alignments, Rosslyn carvings, and folklore collectively suggest deliberate encoding. Skeptics may dismiss individual cases, but when viewed collectively, a transatlantic network emerges, geometric, symbolic, and celestial in design, intentionally concealed and resilient across centuries. The network's persistence challenges the assumption that historical orthodoxy can fully explain every anomaly. Resistance, therefore, is not merely intellectual, it is structural. Institutional norms, professional risk, and conventional frameworks shape the reception of Templar theories, yet this resistance itself forms part of the narrative. The secrecy the Templars encoded centuries ago is mirrored by the caution of modern academia. Knowledge remains guarded, accessible only to those willing to observe patterns, integrate multiple sources, and interpret encoded meaning across time and space. Modern exploration continues despite skepticism. Researchers map alignments, decode inscriptions, and analyze folklore, often encountering partial confirmations, intriguing anomalies, and tantalizing hints. Each discovery, however small, reinforces the possibility that a coherent network exists, bridging Europe and the Americas. The tension between skepticism and discovery reflects a broader human story. Curiosity confronts orthodoxy, evidence challenges assumptions, and persistence rewards those willing to engage deeply with mystery. Ultimately, resistance highlights the delicate balance between proof and possibility. Evidence remains fragmentary, interpretation is challenging, and patterns are often subtle. Yet the convergence of markers, inscriptions, celestial alignment, geometric encoding, and folklore cannot be entirely dismissed. Modern researchers continue to navigate this tension, honoring both rigorous methodology and imaginative exploration, aware that discovery may require patience, persistence, and willingness to question conventional narratives. As this chapter closes, one truth emerges. The Templars' potential presence in the Americas has always been controversial, and skepticism will remain a constant companion to exploration. Yet patterns persist, networks endure, and the layered system of encoded knowledge invites those willing to investigate. Resistance, far from negating possibility, emphasizes the careful observation, holistic analysis, and interpretive skill required to engage with centuries-old secrets. As we enter the final stages of our journey, it becomes necessary to step back, breathe, and examine the full tapestry of evidence. Each site, artifact, alignment, and inscription, when viewed in isolation, might seem enigmatic, coincidental, or even inconsequential. Yet when traced across continents and centuries, a striking pattern emerges, revealing a deliberate, interconnected system of markers, rituals, and concealed knowledge. This chapter will guide us through the evidence, connecting threads from Europe to North America, and from the medieval Templars to modern exploration. Rosslyn Chapel remains the anchor point in Europe, a monumental archive of encoded symbolism. Its carvings, geometric patterns, and botanical motifs suggest an advanced understanding of sacred geometry, ritual practice, and perhaps even transatlantic awareness. The inclusion of maize and aloe vera in carvings hints at knowledge of lands across the ocean, while cryptic geometric arrangements provide a template of encoded meaning. Every stone, every arch, and every carving appears deliberate, reflecting layers of instruction intended to endure time, conceal knowledge, and communicate selectively with the initiated. Across the Atlantic, Oak Island exemplifies the physical manifestation of Templar methodology. The Money Pit, with its layered construction, water traps, and stone placements, exhibits both engineering skill and encoded sequence. Modern exploration reveals that each layer, each obstacle, and each anomaly may serve not merely as concealment, but as part of a ritualized, ceremonial process. The pit is not simply a repository. It is a dynamic node within a network, interacting with landscape, celestial cycles, and symbolic design. Newport Tower, with its circular stone construction and alignment with celestial events, reinforces this transatlantic continuity. Its architectural parallels to European Templar structures suggest not merely functional construction, but ritual and symbolic intent. Solstice and lunar alignments, wall thickness, and sightlines may encode both navigational and ceremonial meaning. The tower stands as a silent witness to a network that bridges oceans, linking physical construction with symbolic purpose. The Kensington Runestone, located in Minnesota, contributes a textual node to the network. Its runic inscriptions, numeric sequences, and directional orientation suggest mnemonic, navigational, and potentially ceremonial significance. European Templars frequently embedded complex meaning in inscriptions, using symbols and numbers to convey layered instructions. When replicated in North America, the runestone may represent a deliberate transatlantic attempt to preserve knowledge, marking terrain while encoding sequence, ritual, or instruction. Stone alignments and minor markers across New England, Nova Scotia, and the Midwest provide additional nodes. Circular formations, triangular arrangements, and isolated monoliths correspond with natural features, celestial events, and other markers. Modern survey work, combined with drone mapping, LiDAR, and GPS analysis, suggests that these placements are not random. Instead, they demonstrate intentional design consistent with European Templar methodology. Each formation, from largest to smallest, contributes to a multi-dimensional network that integrates observation, geometry, and ritualized practice. Celestial observation emerges repeatedly as a unifying principle. Alignments with solstices, equinoxes, Venus cycles, and prominent stars appear across sites. European Templars utilized astronomy for both navigation and ritual timing. In the Americas, these same principles appear encoded in stone, tower, and inscription. Observation of the sky becomes both practical and ceremonial, linking human activity to cosmic rhythm. The network, therefore, is not merely terrestrial, it extends into the heavens, integrating celestial patterns into encoded guidance. Geometric encoding further enhances this system. Triangles, pentagons, interlaced circles, and other recurring forms are found across multiple sites. European Templars employed geometry to encode spiritual, intellectual, and practical knowledge. In the Americas, repetition of these motifs suggests intentional transplantation, maintaining continuity of method across continents. Each geometric pattern, whether carved or formed in stone, conveys layered meaning, mnemonic, ceremonial, or symbolic. Folklore and oral tradition provide a narrative dimension to the network. Legends of lights in forests, sudden discoveries, and hidden chambers persist across regions and generations. While dismissed by mainstream academics, these stories preserve mnemonic cues, ritual sequences, and encoded memory. Folklore complements physical markers, forming a parallel network that encodes knowledge in narrative form. These oral patterns, when cross-referenced with stone alignments, celestial observation, and inscriptions, reveal remarkable consistency. The hooked X symbol, recurring across multiple inscriptions, reinforces network coherence. Its repetition across time and space suggests deliberate coding, linking distant sites with a recognizable symbolic language. Such symbols are consistent with European Templar methods, where visual cues mark territory. Encoded instruction, or signaled hierarchy within the network, when combined with geometry, celestial alignment, and ritual placement, the hooked X becomes a connective thread, uniting nodes into a functional system. Botanical knowledge adds subtle but significant context. Maize, aloe vera, and other non-European flora appear in carvings and inscriptions, hinting at awareness of the Americas and perhaps providing guidance for site placement or ritual practice. Plant motifs bridge continents, reinforcing continuity and suggesting a broader awareness that extends beyond mere physical presence. Knowledge of geography, flora, and natural resources may have been encoded as part of the broader network, offering practical and symbolic guidance to initiates. Manuscripts and maps, though largely lost, would have provided crucial instruction. European texts likely included encoded measurements, celestial guidance, and ceremonial procedures. Transported across the Atlantic, these manuscripts would have facilitated the replication of network principles in the Americas. Even fragments of such documents, when cross-referenced with physical markers and folklore, suggest deliberate planning, layered encoding, and continuity of method. The convergence of all these elements cites inscriptions, celestial alignment, geometry, folklore, symbolism, and botanical cues reveals a coherent network spanning continents. Each site reinforces others, ensuring resilience, longevity, and redundancy. The system is multidimensional, physical, textual, symbolic, celestial, and narrative layers interlock to form a durable architecture of knowledge, secrecy, and ritual. The network was designed to withstand time, survive skepticism, and guide those capable of interpreting its meaning. Modern exploration, with technology, archival research, and interdisciplinary study, continues to uncover new evidence. Drone surveys reveal alignments invisible from the ground. LiDAR mapping uncovers geometric patterns. Ground-penetrating radar detects anomalies. Archival study identifies parallel European methodology. Each discovery, however small, reinforces the coherence of the network and underscores the Templars' ingenuity in embedding knowledge across multiple dimensions. Resistance from academia, skepticism from historians, and dismissal from the public do not erase patterns. Instead, they highlight the complexity, subtlety, and deliberate concealment encoded by the Templars. The persistence of these patterns across centuries suggests intentional planning, layered design, and sophisticated knowledge management. The network endures precisely because it was created to challenge observation, interpretation, and understanding, rewarding the patient, persistent, and perceptive. In synthesizing the evidence, the following principles emerge: continuity across continents. European methods of encoding, ritual, and observation are consistently mirrored in the Americas. Celestial integration, alignments with stars, solstices, and cycles encode temporal, navigational, and ceremonial information. Geometric precision, recurrent forms and ratios suggest deliberate, layered encoding of knowledge. Textual and symbolic encoding. Inscriptions, runes, and symbols transmit mnemonic, navigational, and ritual information. Narrative preservation. Folklore, oral tradition, and legends serve as parallel conduits for knowledge. Botanical and environmental awareness. Non-European flora and strategic placement reflect geographic, symbolic, and practical understanding. Layered concealment, physical construction, ritualized design, and encoded sequences ensure resilience against time and skepticism. Taken together, these principles suggest a transatlantic network of knowledge, ritual, and concealment, intentionally designed to endure, resist casual interpretation, and guide those capable of decoding it. The Templars' presence in the Americas, if historically accurate, was not a fleeting venture. It was a deliberate, multi-dimensional enterprise integrating space, sky, narrative, and symbol. As this chapter closes, the vision of the Templar network becomes vivid. Oak Island, Newport Tower, Kensington Runestone, stone alignments, Rosslyn Chapel, botanical motifs, hooked X symbols, folklore, and celestial cycles all converge into a coherent system of deliberate, encoded knowledge. The network is not fully deciphered, and perhaps never will be entirely. Yet its existence invites exploration, interpretation, and discovery. Each node, physical, symbolic, or narrative, offers a glimpse into centuries of deliberate planning, sophisticated knowledge management, and ceremonial practice. As we draw the final curtains on our journey through time, stone, and legend, a quiet realization settles over us. The Templars' story, whether rooted in the heart of Europe or whispered across the forests and rivers of the Americas, is not merely a tale of exploration or treasure. It is a story of persistence, of deliberate concealment, and of human ingenuity carried across centuries. From the carvings of Rosslyn Chapel, etched with enigmatic symbols and distant flora, to the layered and flooded tunnels of Oak Island, from the runic inscriptions of the Kensington stone, to the scattered, seemingly humble stone alignments in the forests and fields of North America, a pattern emerges. This pattern is subtle yet coherent, intricate yet resilient, connecting continents, generations, and methods of knowledge that challenge the ordinary boundaries of history. The evidence, when viewed individually, might appear fragmented: an isolated stone here, a curious tower there, a cryptic inscription beyond reach. Yet when woven together, it begins to reveal an intentional network, one that transcends physical location and stretches across time itself. Rosslyn Chapel, standing in Scotland, anchors the European thread. Its carvings of maize and aloe vera hint at knowledge of lands across the Atlantic, while geometric patterns, interlaced symbols, and cryptic designs encode information not merely meant to be observed, but to be understood, interpreted, and experienced. Each arch, each stone, each carving functions as a node in a larger system, a system designed to persist, to challenge, and to communicate selectively with those capable of perceiving its meaning. Across the Atlantic, Oak Island embodies this system in physical form. The money pit is no simple excavation or natural anomaly. It is a carefully engineered construct layered with stone, wood, and water mechanisms that suggest sophisticated engineering and meticulous planning. Modern explorers, armed with sonar, ground-penetrating radar, and drilling technology, have uncovered evidence of its complexity: stone-lined chambers, flood tunnels designed to frustrate intrusion, and a sequence of layers that hint at deliberate design. Each obstacle, each layer, each anomaly is not merely a physical barrier, but a ritualized challenge, testing the patience, ingenuity, and perception of those who attempt to uncover it. Oak Island is thus not simply a repository of potential treasure. It is a ceremonial node, connected to a broader network of observation, geometry, An encoded meaning, Newport Tower, in Rhode Island, offers another piece of the transatlantic puzzle. Its circular construction, thick stone walls, and precise orientation suggest a purpose beyond mere utility, while mainstream archaeology often interprets it as a colonial windmill. Careful examination of its alignment with celestial events, solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycles opens the possibility of symbolic and ritual function. The tower's geometric design echoes European Templar architecture, hinting at a continuity of method and intention across the ocean. When placed within the broader network of American and European sites, Newport Tower becomes more than an architectural curiosity. It becomes a deliberate node in a celestial and terrestrial map, part of a web connecting space, time, and encoded meaning. The Kensington Runestone, discovered in Minnesota, offers a textual counterpart to these physical markers. Its runic inscriptions, numeric sequences, and spatial orientation may serve as mnemonic devices, directional guides, or ritual markers. European Templars were adept at embedding complex meaning into symbols and inscriptions. The runestone may represent the transplantation of this methodology into the New World. When considered alongside Oak Island and Newport Tower, it hints at a broader network, one that is multidimensional, incorporating stone, text, geometry, and celestial observation. The stone does more than tell a story. It encodes knowledge intended to guide, challenge, and endure. Scattered stone alignments across New England, Nova Scotia, and the Midwest reinforce this network. Circular arrangements, triangular formations, and isolated monoliths, often dismissed as natural or random, reveal deliberate placement when surveyed with modern tools. LiDAR, drone mapping, and GPS analysis uncover hidden patterns, geometric precision, and alignment with natural features or celestial events. These minor markers, though modest in scale, act as connective tissue, linking major sites and creating redundancy in the network. Each stone, each placement, is part of a deliberate orchestration, a system designed to be persistent, yet elusive, rewarding careful observation and thoughtful interpretation. Celestial observation plays a unifying role in this network. Alignments with solstices, equinoxes, Venus cycles, and prominent stars appear repeatedly, suggesting not only practical navigational knowledge, but ceremonial and symbolic significance. European Templars integrated astronomy into their spiritual and operational frameworks. In the Americas, these principles appear mirrored in stone, tower, and inscription. The sky becomes a canvas, a guide, and a repository of meaning, connecting distant sites across continents. The network is thus multidimensional, terrestrial and celestial, physical and symbolic. Geometric encoding strengthens the coherence of the network. Repeated forms, triangles, pentagons, interlaced circles, and complex ratios appear in carvings, structures, and alignments. In Europe, these forms encoded spiritual, navigational, and mnemonic knowledge. In the Americas, they echo intentional replication. Each pattern communicates layered meaning, operating simultaneously on practical, symbolic, and ceremonial levels. Geometry in this context is not decorative, it is functional, encoded, and purposeful. Folklore, oral tradition, and legend provide yet another layer. Stories of lights in forests, unexplained discoveries, hidden chambers, and mysterious occurrences, passed down over generations, preserve mnemonic cues and ceremonial sequences. While often dismissed as anecdotal or unreliable, these narratives reinforce and complement the physical and symbolic network. Legends provide temporal continuity, allowing knowledge to persist even when stone erodes, manuscripts decay, or physical markers are obscured. They are, in effect, living nodes within the network, preserving the intent and memory of those who created it. Symbols such as the hooked X, repeated across inscriptions and markers, unify distant sites into a coherent system. Each instance reinforces continuity, indicating intentional replication, hierarchy, or function within the network. Alongside geometry, celestial alignment, and folklore, symbols operate as both connectors and conveyors of encoded knowledge. They form a subtle language, readable only by those attuned to observation, interpretation, and historical method. Botanical knowledge further enriches the network. Maize, aloe vera, and other non-European plants appear in carvings and inscriptions, signaling awareness of the Americas and possibly guiding placement or ritual practice. Such botanical cues are practical, symbolic, and mnemonic simultaneously. They connect European knowledge with the New World, bridging geography and symbolism, observation and interpretation. Even manuscripts, now largely lost, would have contributed. Layers of instruction, guiding replication of encoded networks. European texts likely included measurements, celestial guidance, and ritual procedures. When transported or translated to the Americas, they could have provided templates for the careful replication of the network. Even fragmentary evidence, cross-referenced with inscriptions, folklore, and physical markers, suggests deliberate intention, continuity, and sophisticated planning. Resistance and skepticism have shadowed this exploration. Mainstream historians often dismiss these theories as speculative or fringe, cautioning against leaps in interpretation. Academic frameworks prefer chronological orthodoxy, documented expeditions, and verifiable artifacts. Researchers pursuing alternative explanations face professional marginalization, publication challenges, and reputational risk. Yet the persistence of patterns across centuries, continents, and dimensions challenges dismissal. The network endures precisely because it was created to reward careful observation, critical thinking, and interpretive patience. Modern exploration continues despite skepticism. Drone surveys, LiDAR, ground-penetrating radar, and archival research reveal previously hidden alignments, inscriptions, and anomalies. Citizen scientists, independent researchers, and interdisciplinary teams participate in this centuries-old dialogue, piecing together evidence that challenges accepted history. Each measurement, each interpretation, each discovery mirrors the Templars' original intent, careful observation, methodical reasoning, and engagement with encoded knowledge. The implications of this network are profound. The Templars, if present in the Americas, were not fleeting explorers. They were custodians of knowledge, architects of secrecy, and practitioners of ritualized observation. Each site, each marker, each symbol reflects deliberate action, intentional concealment, and layered meaning designed to endure beyond immediate comprehension. Their methods rewarded patience, intellect, and insight, leaving an enduring invitation for those willing to engage with their system. As night falls over these landscapes, one can imagine standing among Oak Island's mounds, the quiet circle of Newport Tower, or beneath a runestone in a windswept field. The sun dips toward the horizon, stars emerge, and shadows stretch across stone and forest. Look closely, the angles of stones, the carving of a symbol, the pattern of alignment all speak in a subtle language, offering knowledge to those patient and observant enough to perceive it. The Templars' legacy is not merely physical, it is intellectual, spiritual, and symbolic. A dialogue across centuries inviting engagement, interpretation, and wonder. History is not confined to what is written or recorded. It is also what is encoded, hidden, and preserved in subtle networks of knowledge. Oak Island, Newport Tower, the Kensington Runestone, Rosslyn Chapel, stone alignments, botanical motifs, folklore, and celestial alignments together form a web of meaning that challenges conventional timelines, theories, and methods. Even if definitive proof remains elusive, the coherence of the network demands acknowledgement. It is a system of knowledge, ritual, and secrecy designed to endure, to guide, and to inspire. In the end, the Templars' presence in the Americas, whether fully historical, partially symbolic, or entirely encoded in intention, remains a powerful testament to human ingenuity and foresight. They remind us that history is layered, multifaceted, and often deliberately concealed. Knowledge survives when it is encoded, observation is rewarded, and curiosity is engaged. For those willing to see, measure, interpret, and wonder, the Templars Network offers a continuing invitation to explore, to question,